Order the city council meeting for June 14th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Here.
Councilmember Perkins,
Here.
Councilmember Zafar,
Here.
Vice Mayor Veros,
Here.
Mayor Hudson.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which is under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, are there any changes or additions to the agenda tonight?
There's none this evening.
Seeing none. 3.2, if you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to our city clerk over there. If you are participating remotely, please click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on the agenda items. Okay, boards, committees, and commission meetings. A complete list of upcoming meetings may be found on the city's website at www.ca.gov. Subscription services available at the link for automatic meeting notification. Or contact the city clerk with questions at 925-973-2539. Public comment is now open. Item 4, at this time, the public is permitted to address the city council on items that are on the consent calendar, including a request to pull an item from the consent calendar and the reason why you wish to pull the item or items. Please note that the decision to remove the item from the consent calendar is strictly at the discretion of the 5 of us up here. You can also pull it for a request for a future agenda item, and you can pull it for the special presentation items under section 6 of tonight's agenda. I believe we have 4 of them. And of course, items that are not on the agenda and are within the city council's jurisdiction. So do we have any cards to speak?
We do have 2 requests to speak under this item.
Okay, let's hear the first one.
Walker Tippett.
Walker?
Good evening, council.
Hi.
I'm here to once again ask
Wait,
you.
Walker, before you do, please take 3 minutes, but we got to get, if you got a 3-minute time, I don't want to interrupt you in the middle, but so start over,
No worries.
take 3 minutes and go for it. You've got it.
As you may realize, I'm here to once again ask you to draft legislation that protects the unborn in San Ramon by outlawing abortions. I know that I've sent you lots of material on this subject over the past few weeks, and I'm very grateful for your patience and your consideration. I'd like to use this time simply to reiterate an important principle about authority that will hopefully help you more deeply understand your obligations as public servants. I've now been to 3 city council meetings to speak on this topic, and all 3 times we have begun our proceedings by turning to that flagpole and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance we all memorized in elementary school. In that pledge, we affirm our shared commitment to the United States and everything it stands for. And in that pledge, there is a very important phrase, under God. Our inclusion of this phrase indicates 2 things. Number 1, we are under God, meaning God sees us. God is sovereign and all-knowing. He is aware of all our thoughts, all of our words, and all of our choices. Number 2, we are under God, meaning he is above us in rank. He has moral authority over us. He determines what is true, what is right, and what is good. In our simple Pledge of Allegiance, we are proclaiming that we humans are not the final standard. We don't get the final say in anything. God does. And the God being referred to in our pledge is not some remote, impersonal, unknowable force. He is the God of the Bible, who created all things, including all human beings, fashioned in his image from the moment of conception. This God before whom we have all sworn this solemn oath tonight is the Lord Jesus Christ himself, who came into this world to save sinners by giving his life as a ransom for many. Mark 10:45. In light of this reality, please ask yourself, what does God think about something like abortion? The Bible says the law of God is written on all of our hearts, believers and skeptics alike. So even if at this point in your life you are uncertain as to who this God is, or if your Bible has been collecting dust on your bookshelf for years, if you're honest with yourself, you will be forced to admit that you know God despises our slaughtering of defenseless human lives. From the few occasions I've observed you in your role as city council members, I can tell you take your responsibilities to San Ramon very seriously. You strike me as people who strive to keep your word. Making San Ramon a sanctuary city for the unborn will not make you many friends. It will probably not help you get reelected. But you have all pledged yourselves to a much higher calling than that, to pursue what is righteous in the sight of God. And tonight, when you face that flag, we were all witnesses. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, Walker. Next speaker, please.
Christina Rouse. Wait,
Yes.
start
Can she start?
whenever you're ready.
Yes, she can start. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Christina Rouse. I grew up in San Ramon. I'm a mother with 2 children. Basically, what I wanted to come here is to just sort of ask the group with regards to the gun violence that's plaguing our country. What is the city of San Ramon doing alongside with the San Ramon Police Department and San Ramon Valley Unified School District to work together, I guess, to continue to ensure safety of our kids? I mean, I'm terrified of the moment I have to send my kid to school. It's still very scary, even though we're in a pretty safe community, but I'd really love to know, because I'm sure there's a lot being done right now. If there was an active shooter, is there this metaphorical button that's pressed where everybody gets alerted? Things like that is something I'd just like to know a little bit more about. I don't want to get into the conversation of gun violence and gun control or anything like that, but I do feel there's always a reason that forces someone or makes them want to hurt another person. And are we looking at what are those causes? I think some of it could be bullying. What are we doing about that problem in our community? If you go on Nextdoor, you can read about parents like desperate. They're posting about their kids being bullied. There's little help they're not getting from the school. I actually know someone who had to pull her kids out of school. I think they were in the Danville schools, but nonetheless, like she had to take her kids out and put them into private school because the situation was really bad for them. So it's really just something to think about. Maybe this is a topic for another day, but again, I just want to know what are we doing to address, continue the safety of our schools and our kids, and also addressing kind of root cause within our control.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Christina. Any on computer or,
That was the
phone?
last speaker card, but we do have one hand raised on Zoom.
okay, can you,
Sue Bach.
Sue?
Good evening.
Evening.
Been a while since I've attended a meeting, but I wanted to bring attention to myself as a nurse who's lived and worked in San Ramon for over 20 years, that I am still concerned about the preservation of the quality of life in my city. And this is because climate emergency needs to become part of San Ramon's verbiage in every thought, written word, and deed. And partly to do with the American Medical Association today declaring that climate change is a public health crisis. With that said, addressing the fact that 60% of the GHG in the nation is attributable to suburban regions is imperative. I invite the City Council to make an impact and act like almost 200 residents did by signing the petition prepared by the San Ramon Valley Climate Coalition. So I'm asking for the City Council to declare a climate emergency and incorporate it into the housing element. Number 2, set climate emergency as an action item on the next agenda. Number 3, make a final bicycle map with a more level 3 and 4 bike lanes. And the consequences of delaying the city's declaration include further degradation of our local air quality with our current GHG, and with growth comes more congestion, even with a walkable city that's proposed. Number 2, growing GHG levels in a city that seems to be ignoring citizens' requests for a declaration of a climate emergency. Number 3, bicycles are a way to prevent a rise in GHG. And with the lack of safety of cycling in San Ramon, the populace will continue to rely on ICE cars. I thank you for your time and your consideration of my request.
Thank you, Sue. Anything else or anyone else?
That was the only hand raised on
Seeing
Zoom.
none, we'll close the public comment with one statement at this time. While we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents the city council from discussing items that are not on their meeting agenda. We do take these seriously, however, and if appropriate, we will ask staff to follow up on them. At this time, consent calendar items are considered routine and are acted upon by the city council with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to provide public input may request by email. And I believe we've already mentioned that before, and we didn't have anybody in the public comment asking for it. So I would just say that, is there anyone from the council that wishes to pull an item? Seeing none, and we don't have any cards to pull. Is that correct, Christina?
We do not.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the council on 5-1 through 5-12? You guys. You'd love, I've got to read this stuff looking at it, but too much fun. Okay, special presentations, highlight of the night. All right, I have a proclamation here. You said the microphone's down there, Christina, I can go down there? Okay. Be right back. Yeah, it makes me want to sing. Okay, we have a proclamation tonight. No, you don't want me to sing? Okay. We have a special proclamation tonight, and I'm sorry, but I forgot. We had two people that were going to be here. Oh, please, come on up. Yeah, we're going to put you on the spot. I hope you've got your 20-minute speech ready. Okay, didn't we just see each other? Yes, okay. Very special time. This is, I'm sorry, I don't have it. You are? And you are?
Taylor Denbroder.
Okay, so remember those names. I might forget them when I'm doing the proclamation. Yeah, we have a proclamation of the City Council of the City of San Ramon declaring June 2022 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month. And whereas the City of San Ramon is committed to making San Ramon a place where everyone is welcome, and whereas the nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles including that every person has been created equal, that all have rights to their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that all shall be afforded the full recognition and protection of the law. And whereas the City of San Ramon recognizes the importance of equality and freedom and is dedicated to fostering acceptance of all its citizens and preventing discrimination and bullying based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And whereas the City of San Ramon is strengthened by and thrives upon the rich diversity of ethnic, cultural, racial, sexual orientation, and gender identities of its residents, all of which contribute to the vibrant character of the city. And whereas many residents, students, employees, and business owners within San Ramon who contribute to the enrichment of the city are part of LGBTQ plus community. And whereas June has become a symbolic month in which the LGBTQ plus community and supporters come together in various celebrations of pride. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of San Ramon does hereby proclaim June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in San Ramon and encourages residents to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQ plus community and to actively promote the principles of equity and liberty. Thank you. You have a few words? Okay.
We wanted to thank the City of San Ramon for taking the step to support the LGBTQ plus community in our city. By supporting Pride Month, San Ramon is highlighting the contributions and strength of our beautifully diverse community. PFLAG would like to thank you very much for supporting all.
No, I think that sums it up. Thank you so much.
So you want me to sing, huh? I love this. I've done a lot. You. Hold this.
Oh.
Be one of those nights. Thank you very much. Taylor, thank you. Okay, now we're going to do some introductions. Francis. Brad, we're going to let you do it. Get up here. Where is he? Look at him laying back there trying to hide in the weeds. Brad, you have a new introduction for us, correct? Don't you love this mic thing? It's much better than this.
I really like it. Where I'm not going to use it.
Turn around and face everybody.
Oh, I do. Yes, good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you very much for having me here this evening and letting me introduce our new senior community library manager for the Doherty Station and San Ramon Libraries, Francis Idabola Wilson. Francis was previously a manager at Pinole and El Sobrante branches and has been with the Contra Costa County Library System since 2017, and he loves what he does. Francis received his bachelor's degree from Yaba College in Technology in Yaba, Lagos, Nigeria, and his master's in Library Information Sciences, and Valdosta State University in Georgia. And if that wasn't enough, he received his PhD in Public Policy and Administration from Walden University. In his free time, he enjoys watching movies, staying in touch with his friends and family from Atlanta and Nigeria, and he's also a daredevil who loves heights. Francis has been with us since early April, and it's been an absolute pleasure to work with him. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Francis Idabola Wilson.
20 minutes.
Oh, I think I'll do like the last presenters, maybe 30 seconds. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, staff. I'm not going to forget Miss Kathy Haldman there. Thank you for having me. And like I said, in addition to my passion for helping people and helping them gain the knowledge they deserve, my passion for public services is greater than ever. And I'm exploring many new and exciting opportunities to make a difference. I will continue to work to keep both the libraries working, honest and effective during my time as Senior Community Library Manager. All in all, throughout this path, I remain truly grateful to you by my side. No one person can make a change alone, so we must keep pushing ahead together. And I will say thank you very much for having me and looking forward to more collaborative efforts with the public as well as our stakeholders. Thank you again.
And thank you for being our representative to the people. Thanks, Brad. Okay, we have another employee tonight. So I want to say new, but I've been emailing him so much over the last 10 years, it doesn't seem like he's new. Now I just have to send it through the wall. You can hear all the songs that I'm playing. Chris, congratulations for being part of the team. Maria, you want to do it?
Oh, okay. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, audience. I would love to be introducing right now to you Chris Weeks. He's our new Transportation Division Manager for the Public Works Department. We're excited to have him on board. He is filling the position of Lisa Bobadilla, who recently retired. But Chris comes to us with a lot of credentials, a lot of education, a lot of experience that we're really excited for him to be bringing to us with the city of San Ramon. Chris graduated from the University of California in Berkeley with a sociology degree, and he received his master's degree in urban planning, transportation planning from San Jose State University. He has 18 years experience in transportation operations in both the public and the private sector. So a great combination to bring here to the city of San Ramon. In the public sector, he worked for the University of California, San Francisco as a transportation coordinator, and also the Presidio Trust Transportation Operations Specialist and in the planning. In the private sector, he worked a little bit for Google Incorporation as a transportation coordinator. But as most of us know, his last 10 years of experience has been with Bishop Ranch. So his transportation experience as a transportation director, he has the intimate knowledge of the city of San Ramon and is bringing that to here and share with us now. He has, as many of you know, he is an avid bicyclist. So many of you may have been seeing him right around the town. And he has a passion for giving back to the community, working with different sides to resolve an issue, growth of employees, as well as others. So Chris is ready to be part of the City of San Ramon team. Looking forward to sharing all of his experience and knowledge in the transportation planning field, ready to hit the ground running. Actually, you already have. On all the various tasks and projects in the transportation division, and excited to explore new transportation technology and innovation that will keep the city in the forefront and continue his passion for transportation and giving back to the community. So welcome, Chris. Thank you.
We only give him a 10-minute speech though. Get speech, Chris, speech. Good fumbling with it, you'll break it.
Don't want to poke my hand.
Yeah.
Thank you for the new accoutrement for my outfit. It's already poking a hole in my shirt. Ouch. Anyways, beautiful piece of jewelry, and I'm excited to be part of the city finally. Having spent a lot of time riding my bicycle around San Ramon in the evenings and in the mornings, I've seen the beauty of this town, and I've seen the town grow, and I've seen the city staff and council do a great job in maintaining a great quality of life here. And I'm excited to be part of that now. I've been working for the interests of the business community for the last 10 years primarily, and was always jealous of people that got to reach that hand across to the people that live here and welcome them into the future of San Ramon. And I think the bridge that we're going to be building over Bollinger is very emblematic of that. And I'm really excited to be coming on at a time when there's been many, many years of work to bring that bridge to this town. And I'm excited that I get to be here when it happens. And I really hope that everybody that put a little something into it gets honored when it finally gets built and we're all together and able to celebrate its building. So thank you for letting me join the city and welcoming me in. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to work together, all of us. And my door's always open, even if it's closed. So come on in and just open the door and sit down. I'm gonna, there's a giant desk in there now and it's got a big desk to fill. So my strategy is to get rid of that desk and get a really small desk and put in chairs in there so people can come and hang out and talk. So drop by anytime and bring up anything that you want to talk about, and look forward to working with you all to bring in the future of San Ramon. Thank you.
I give it about 3 weeks and that door will be closed. I'm the office next door to you. Scott, you had a few words?
You know, we worked in transportation with both, I was on Traffic's board and TVTC and alternate for SWAT and Innovate 680 and all these things. And so, you know, working with Lisa has always been such a pleasure, and she's widely known throughout the region. And so when she said she was retiring, I thought, oh boy. But you know, I think we got the right guy to fill back in for Lisa. You're widely known around here for your dedication, your expertise, and I really appreciate the fact that you have such an interest in cycling, because we know that that's going to continue to be an area of emphasis. And working with Robin and with Brian and the engineering team to make sure that every time we pave something new or, you know, put a new slurry coat on it, it's going to have some kind of bike enhancement on it, and you won't let it get by without that. And I really appreciate that. So welcome, Chris. It's a real pleasure you're here.
If I could piggyback on that a little bit. Yeah, it seemed like Chris probably got more emails from me than anyone. I likened it a lot when CCTA started out and we had two really outstanding people at CCTA, and we heard Bob McCleary was going to retire, and I go, how could we ever replace Bob McCleary? Well, anyone that's done anything with transportation knows about Randy Iwasaki, and you know, it's one of those things. It's just when people step in at the right time. I was listening to Sue Bach earlier tonight, and I go, that's what Chris Week does.
Mm-hmm.
We will have the bike lanes. Don't worry about it. And in fact, we have a dedicated bike lane on the bridge. It was part of the money that's coming from the Air District. But I think the one that really caught my attention more than that, other than a lot of other things, was that hydrogen. And it was Chris that first enlightened me a little bit to hydrogen. And now what we're looking at with Valley Link and the conference I was at last weekend, there's a lot of passion in that field right now with the renewables having to come up by the end of the decade. So a lot of people are going to have their work cut out for them, what we can do with batteries and what we can't. And I'm just glad you're here at this time, because usually when I tell you about something, you'd tell me, yeah, we're doing that. Yeah, we've done that. Yeah, we've been there. So I'm really looking forward to the next, I'll keep the music down or whatever it is out of my office. So I don't
No, keep-
bother you too much.
Turn it up.
but-
I like the noise. I like the music.
Get,
so
get
please don't worry.
Chris's playlist and use it.
No. Anyway, thank you for coming on board, Chris, and we will see you many times in the future.
Yeah, I look forward
And
to
we
it.
will move on to item 6. Just leave it
Thank
up
you.
there if you can.
Thank you.
The highlight of the evening, I actually had a special request for this a few weeks ago. And I think he actually made it publicly. And when Jim Blickenstaff asked to hear from East Bay Mud, well, here's our annual update. And we've got Brian, you're going to come down and introduce John for us? Okay, come on down.
Good evening. It is great to have Chris Weeks aboard with
Yes.
us. Could use the help. Anyway, good evening, Mayor, City Council. It's that time of year we give you the water updates. Unfortunately, as you probably recall, it's not rosy cheeks, but it's a good time to get more information out there. We have John Coleman tonight, Director of Ward 2 for East Bay Mud, will provide a water supply and drought update. John Coleman has been Director of Ward 2 for over 30 years, so he's very familiar with water supply and obviously the ebb and flow, the good years, the bad years, the droughts. But I do know is he is no magician. He cannot solve the drought himself. It'll take an effort by all levels to really solve it. But he'll go into more details how we can try to diversify our water flow and not be so reliant on the state. In any case, we have a 2-part series. Tonight is John Coleman with East Bay Mud, and then in the next meeting will be DSRSD. East Bay Mud covers about 2/3 of the city, and DSRSD covers about 1/3 in the southeast area of the city. So we'd like to get both of them up to announce and get you updated. And typically we take these presentations and we'll put them on the city website as well. So people go to that, gather information, give other links back to both the water agencies to really get the word out there, especially in water conservation and other tips and things that can be reached out to help. Anyway, with that, I will turn it over to Director Coleman right behind me and make sure that the PowerPoint is ready for him.
I think it's right
Yeah,
there.
there you go. You can do that. And yeah, there you go.
Good to see you again, John.
Thank you very much, Brian. Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It's so nice after about a 3-year hiatus of actually showing up and not having to do a meeting like this in Zoom. And so, yes, as Brian indicated, and we're all aware, we're in a serious drought, and I'll go into that and I'll talk about what we're looking towards for the future and so on. So real quickly, as Brian indicated, I represent Ward 2, which is this side of San Ramon on 680. All the way up to San Ramon Valley into Lafayette, about a quarter Pleasant Hill, and half Walnut Creek, which is within East Bay Mud service area. So that's about 211,000 people that represent. And it's been an honor to represent you in this time frame. So brief history lesson, I'll be quick. East Bay Mud turns 100 years old on May 23rd of next year. And it started off as a collection of small private entities, companies that were trying to deliver water to people. Chabot was a famous name, a reservoir. Well, there have been droughts in this period for over 100 years, and the reservoirs would go dry. So East Bay Mud had some people who had a vision and looked to the future and where water could come from. And so as a result, Pardee Dam, which was built in 1927 through 29, was built on the McCullum River. And that delivers about 97% of all our water to our service area. Oh, darn it, I turned it off. Whew. Okay, so Pardee Dam. If you put it in perspective, if you're at Bear Valley Ski Resort and you look north, you're looking into our watershed. If you're at Kirkwood Ski Resort looking south, you're looking into our watershed. And as you can see, it drains into Pardee Reservoir and goes across over 90 miles of aqueducts, through aqueducts to Walnut Creek by Larkey Park, our filter treatment plant. And from there, our snowflake becomes drinking water. Then it's distributed to 1.4 million people throughout our service area in addition to that. And we're going to find, as climate change was talked about, So much of it has been snow melt in the past, and I've asked staff to take a look at from a climate change perspective. We know that we're going to get more atmospheric rivers coming in that are going to tend to be warmer as a result. So what we relied on in the past was snow melt, that we'd still have snow sitting up high at 7,000 feet this time of year into July. It's gone. And we're going to find over time that that snow melt is going to dissipate quicker. And some of the atmospheric rivers that come into our area are going to be very warm, and it may be just rain, not snow. So how do we, our system that was built 100 years ago, how do we make it work for tomorrow? And that's really the challenge that we face, as well as the state of California looking forward, since 30% of all the state's water comes from the Sierra Nevada range. So we have uncertainty in our existing water supply. We know that the temperature is going to be increasing. And as a result, that's why we're going to have, again, less snow. The precipitation is more variable than it was in the past. And I'll show you a slide on that. Snowpack, as I talked about, is decreasing as well. Evapotranspiration due to the heat is increasing, and that's not a good combination. Then we have sea level rise. Now, does that impact us here? No, but we do wastewater treatment, and that we're right by the Bay Bridge, and a lot of our facilities, in addition to the roads that move goods into our area, as well as chemicals into our area for treatment, are going to be impacted by sea level rise as well. And we have to take that into consideration. This slide here shows you on the axis where it's 0. That's a normal year. This goes back to 1895, and it shows the pink magenta as really, that is more the drought periods of when we've had severe droughts. The bright blue is when we've had a lot of water. As you can see, that we're having an increase in the amount of pink magenta over time. And so droughts are becoming much more severe and more frequent. As a result, again, we have to figure out a way to best address that to make sure that we are able to deliver the water to our 1.4 million customers. So when we had the big rainfall in October and then in December, I go, man, this is great. We're out of, because we're already in our second year of a drought. I'm thinking, we're out of this puppy. No, we're not. January came and people said, how are we doing? I said, oh, we're great. February came, I said, how are we doing? Well, it's good so far. You know, we'll get the rain in March and April. Well, March came. We didn't get the rain then either. We actually had the lowest precipitation from January through June in our history at East Bay Mud, the amount of precipitation that fell. And it shows you on the bar graph of 2022 of how much we received and where we should have been. And it shows you the previous dry years. And you can see it's significantly lower than the other years as well. So this created a situation where we needed to take action. Not only were we required by the state to take action, but we had to look at our water storage. We looked to the end of September to determine what our water storage will be. And we put it at a stage 2 determination with a mandatory 10% reduction, as well as an 8% drought surcharge. That surcharge is paying for excess water that we are, one, going to be buying, which I'll go into later. That costs over $30 million, and that's being paid on the surcharge. In addition, we're going to have lost revenue because we're not selling as much water. We're a water agency. Your job is to sell water. If you're not selling it, you're losing revenue. About 93% of our costs are fixed. The only variable is chemicals and energy. So if you sell 100 million gallons or 500 million gallons, the only variable is energy and chemicals, and everything else is basically baked in cost. Now, here it says mandatory 10% reduction. I fully expect in the very near future, the state water board or the governor is going to have us go to a 15% mandatory reduction. Even though, as you'll see in a second, we're doing pretty good for an agency. A lot of the agencies in the state are in horrendous shape. In fact, some by September, October, will be running out of water most likely. And that's not a good situation. And that's going to have huge economic impacts throughout the state of California. We will be okay. And I hope we have a very wet year. If we have a normal year next year, 2023, which we don't know if we will or not, we will refill our reservoirs to the maximum capacity by the September 30th. But we don't know what's going to come next year, unfortunately. So one of the things is our Freeport Regional Water Authority. It's something I'm very proud of. I helped negotiate it and brought the deal to bear. This was a long fight, and we spent $522 million of our ratepayer money to build this facility on the Sacramento River. And that allowed us to bring in Central Valley Project water earlier in the year. It also has allowed us to bring in some transfer water that we brought into our service area. In addition, we're looking at some more transfer water. We're an option of buying in later in fall, and then we'll use the Freeport water facility to bring that in. Other agencies now use that. They pay for their costs to run it, but this has really been a phenomenal thing, and this will be very important as we go into Los Vaqueros, which I'll get into later as well. So what our portfolio? I like to tell people, everybody says just build a dam. That doesn't do it. Think of yourself sitting on a chair, one leg, that's the dam, pretty wobbly. And all of a sudden you don't have the water, that chair is going to fall over. So really you need to look at it a couple different ways. There's water conservation, which has become embedded in how people live and work in our area now. Recycled water, our goal is 20 million gallons by the year 2040. We're doing groundwater storage in San Leandro area, where we'll get up to 1 million gallons of water per day in a drought. And we're also working in San Joaquin County called the DREAM Project, which will allow us in wet years to store water in the groundwater basin there. And that will allow us to be able to pull water when we need to. Los Vaqueros, I'm in the Joint Powers Authority for that. We are basically helping fund the enlargement of Los Vaqueros. That'll provide up to another 30,000 acre feet of water for our customers. And then our regional partnerships, we have the interties with San Francisco, and actually the only county not part of the regional partnership is Marin County, which is a whole nother story. But having said that, we have the ability to move water around our area, not only for other people, but for ourselves to bring water into our area. And this is really part of our portfolio that has allowed us to be ahead of where we are. And I'll real quickly, it's not part of my slides. 1976, if you were here, it was a drought of all droughts. It was hell. And literally we had 25% rationing. There was no watering allowed outside of your home. We had 1.1 million customers. We were using over 300 million gallons of water a day. Today we have 1.4 million customers, so about a 30% increase. Our water usage is actually about 150 million gallons of water a day versus over 300 million. So that building in the resiliency, the conservation has allowed us, if we had the same things that we're working with in 76, we'd be in really, really sad shape right now, but we're not as a result. Is it great? No, but we're going to get through it. Yes. And we'll get through it fine when it's all said and done. So what we're asking our customers to do, irrigate efficiently. The state and East Bay Mud are saying your lawn 3 times a week. And bottom line is I tell people you can irrigate your yard, yes. But if it goes onto the sidewalk, onto the gutter, you're using way too much water, or your emitters are facing the wrong direction. Fix them, get it done, don't waste that water. Find and fix any leaks that may exist in your outside your home or in your home, and be mindful of your indoor water use. And Dave talked about wanting to sing. I won't sing because everybody would leave the room, but find about a 2-3 minute song that you like. That's about how long your shower should be. Length of a song, not a song that goes for 10 or 20 minutes, but a quick one. And what I do is I just turn it off and on, and it's actually more efficient. You get cleaner that way anyways, but you're saving water and every little bit helps as well. So basic tips, I just talked about them 3 times a week, shrubs and so on, avoid over watering. And we want to make sure that people use water efficiently, and people do. And we know in every drought, people have done a phenomenal job. What they do is they cut back with what we ask them to cut back. But it also, in reality, it becomes more difficult every subsequent drought we have for people to cut back because they've institutionalized how they use water in their home, in their business, outside their home. So it does become more realistic, more difficult. And we do realize that, and that's part of our drought strategy as well. So conversion, we have rebates. I've never understood why people put, and I'd have to take, I don't think you guys do, but other cities do. You got streets going 2 different directions, and you got the median in the middle. People going 40, 50 miles an hour, and there's grass. Well, nobody's going to have a picnic out there. Come on, get real. It's not needed. Rip it out, keep the trees if you want, put in landscaping that is good for the environment, and everything else. You can still have something that looks great. But there's things we encourage you to use gray water at your home and water saving devices, which are free. And we also have a very aggressive, next slide, I believe it is, rebate program. So it's going to be going up to $1.50 per square foot to take out your lawn. And drip conversion will help pay for that. But before you go out and do this, contact our water conservation department. Show them, get them to sign off on what you want to do, because if you do it and then say, oh, I did this, you don't get the rebates. And I always get phone calls and say, so I did it. I said, did you call them? No. So then it becomes a very difficult task working with them, trying to figure out what their past usage was, what their current usage is. And it's a lot of honor and trust. And it's much easier to get the approval ahead of time. And we have demonstration gardens. There's 2 in the area. There's actually at Lafayette Library Learning Center, there's one, as well as the gardens at in Walnut Creek, Heather Farms Gardens. Thank you. And we will do is, and I worked, and it was great working with your former council member who I talked to today, Carol Raleigh, when she was the principal at the school. We put in a demonstration garden, and I remember working with her and getting this stuff all set up. So we will work with you, and we'll work with to make sure people are aware. Find up and fix your leaks. We'll provide rebates for that as well. And again, that's at our conservation.com, www.ebmud.com. So be mindful of your water use. 1 minute less in a shower, 2 million gallons a day. And it always drives me up the wall, the commercial where somebody says, oh, I run my dishwasher every night, like clockwork. And because it's so efficient. Well, maybe it is, but every time you're running a dishwasher or washing machine that's not full, you're using more water than you need to. In addition, you're using more energy than you need to. So we need to have some reality checks as well as that. And we'll provide any home survey water kits that you may have. Infrastructure investments. We're spending a lot of money on infrastructure. Why? Because we're over 100 years old. And as a result, some of our stuff is not to the degree where it should be. Our priorities are safety, reliability, and water quality. And this shows you by class where we're doing it, the work. Most of it's pipelines. And yes, every time we have a leak, Mr. Perkins is great to send me an email to say there's a leak at this street. And I get the email, it could be 10 o'clock at night or whatever. I emailed the general manager and say, Councilmember Perkins says there's a leak here. It gets addressed pretty quickly. So thank you, Scott, on that very much. And then we're doing our pipeline rebuild. Our goal is 20 miles a year. That may not sound much, and it is not a whole lot. To put in perspective, our pipelines are 4,600 miles long. That is our responsibility from the Oakland Coliseum to Finley Field in Chicago back. That is our responsibility. And again, some of the pipes are pipes that we didn't put in the ground. It came from private companies or entities before East Bay Mud was even formed as an agency. So our goal is to get up to 22.5 miles a year.
Your goal,
It's going to take a long time.
And you know, this is one of my pet issues.
Yes, go for it.
Is at that rate, it's more than 100 years to replace the system. So is your goal capped at 22 miles a year? Or are you hoping to get?
We're hoping to go for more, Councilmember Perkins. Part of the problem is it's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
A crew is a lot of money. That's why we have the acoustic leak detection network. And I had this put in specifically for you. From satellites, we can actually detect where our pipelines are in the most vulnerable. So our goal is to try and fix those before they break. Are we always able to do that? No. And in a drought, as the soil contracts, that actually causes more breakage of pipes as a result. But our goal is to increase it, but it comes at a heavy cost financially. Sure. And I can tell people, sure, we'll raise your rates 100%. We'll get it done much sooner. Yep. Are people going to be happy at 100% rate increase? No. And would I be standing here next year? No.
But out of the 150
so with the
million
infrastructure bill, isn't there a lot of money allocated with the infrastructure bill that we could?
Yeah, we've
ask
actually been able to get some money from the president's infrastructure bill. We're always on the look for more state and federal money. And if we get it, we'll put it in and use it. But yes, we actually did receive a substantial amount of money from the action in Washington, D.C. from a year ago.
With 150 million gallons a day, roughly, you have any idea how much you're losing in leaks in your system as opposed to home home-based leaks.
We are losing about, I believe it is about 8% of our total water loss, which is below the industry standard. Now, is it a lot? Too much? Yes, especially in a drought. Yes. And that's why for people at homes, we tell them, fix your leak and we'll work with you to help you get some of your money back that you paid for that. Because literally I've had people who call me up and say, I have a $10,000 water bill.
Yeah.
And they go, we have a leak. I said, let's get it fixed. We'll work with you. And we're able to work out an arrangement that is better than not. But our goal, literally, Councilmember Perkins, is to try and eliminate as many leaks as we can. Are we going to eliminate all? No, but our goal is to eliminate as many as we can with the resources that we have.
Yeah, because 8% to 12 million gallons a day.
Yeah, I think that's the last number I recall.
Okay.
But the acoustic leak detection is helping us as well via satellite to be able to determine where our pipelines are most vulnerable, and in addition to what needs to be fixed sooner than later. We have a lot of pipeline construction work happening, and I can go into them. You can see where the San Ramon ones are, whether they be pumping stations or reservoirs or regulators or pipelines. And I know you have the slide deck, I believe, so that's there, and hopefully it'll go on your website. Recycled water project, very proud of that with DSRSD. They're a great partner. Last year, we had over 350 million gallons of recycled water used in the San Ramon Valley. That means 350 million gallons of potable water that would have been used was not used. And so we're always want to expand. Ironically, our biggest challenge is we don't have enough raw product, i.e. what goes down the drain or the toilet in the high peak periods of August to September in particular. And so we have a deal with Central Sand. Right now, we get their excess product, if you want to call it that, commodity, until they need it. And so we're able to use that. And that's allowed us the last year to be able to actually keep everything moving through our recycled water pipelines. So if you have a purple pipe in your area, that means it's recycled water. And that's great. And we need to do more of it. And I wish we could do more, but it's also an issue of economics and primarily an issue of product, bottom line. Budget and rates, our favorite topic. So out of every dollar, you can see where it's going. About over half of the dollar goes for infrastructure improvements and water service, and you can see going right down the thing. So we have a 4% rate increase that takes effect on July 1. We do a 2-year budget, and this will be the second year of the 2-year budget. And this shows you in terms of how much the average bill will go up. And I got to be honest, this area is more in the 99th percentile, because about 70% of your water bill in the San Ramon Valley is for outdoor water usage. And so that's why it gets raised so high in addition. But it's what it is, and it's difficult to look at. And I know, because I know a lot of people in this category, and it's not easy. And a lot of people's income is financially strapped right now. We're with the recession that we're going into and everything else. Our drought surcharge takes effect July 1 as well. And it's only applied to potable water flow. So recycled water is not having the 8% surcharge. And it's about on an average 10 cents a day, but that's more on the other side of the hills because that's where the bulk of the customers are. This helps again recover our drought cost as well. And excessive use penalty, not popular. It applies to single family home residentials only. So it's every $2 per unit above CCF, which is about 741 gallons. The CCF, and it's for those who exceed more than 1,646 gallons of water per day. Our previous droughts, it was under just about 1,000 gallons a day. So we raised it actually up to 1,600 gallons from about 1,000 gallons because one, people have used less, and it's becoming more and more difficult for people to be able to cut back on how much they use. And this first is a warning, and then the second time is when the CCS, the charge would go in as well.
Is this something people can look at on the website or see what their consumption is, or?
They get their bill, and what we're trying to do is do more we're looking at technology where we have about 20,000 meters that actually people get a notice on their phone or iPad or whatever saying, you may have a leak. And take a look at that, and that's how people can fix a leak very quickly. But it's We're looking to do more of that district-wide. We're evaluating what those would be. But we have found that they're not that reliable. So we're looking at spending over $100 million. And in 7 years, it's maybe obsolete. So we're trying to find the best technology that will last the longest so people will have that. But if you live in an area that has that particular meter, yes, you have it.
You can kind of, because by the time the bill comes around,
Yeah,
it's already like,
yeah, you may
I'll
have
be
had
too
a
late.
leak and not known it.
exactly.
And that's
So
when
it's
I
like,
tell people,
what's happening?
yeah, that's why I tell people if they get a leak and let's say you have an excessively high bill and it's a leak, get it fixed by a plumber, then get a hold of East Bay Mud. And let's say your bill normally was $500 a month to make it simple. And your new bill is $1,000 and you fix it. What they'll do is they'll look at your past usage and let's say it was $500 and $1,000, we'll basically credit back $250 to you. So, but we want to make people to fix their leaks for a lot of reasons, not only not to waste water, but in addition, so that they save money.
Yeah.
So
Because
DSRSD, they already do this alert system where you can subscribe on their website. Whenever there's a leak or increase in your water usage, they text onto your phone. So
Yeah.
they already have this system. Maybe you should work with them and see.
I will look into that. I know we're testing it. We have some, again, 20,000 meters in different parts of our service area right now that will give you real-time usage of your water meter as well. But we need to do something, especially in a drought, when water gets expensive. We need to find a way so people can not spend money unnecessarily. That's difficult to come by. But I'll talk to my friends at DSRSD and see exactly what they're doing and what maybe we can do to
Yeah, I
implement.
think they did it last year and it's also on their website. You can
At
go.
least
and-
I subscribed and once I got alerted.
Yeah.
Oh, so I will make the inquiry on that. Thank you. And I'll do that tomorrow. And we're at questions and discussions. I'm sorry, I had a big slide deck, but I tried to run through it as quick as I could.
Actually, I've got more. You want to jump right to it? And we'll give questions on that.
I have some questions.
Go ahead. Sabina wants to start off, then Scott. We'll move right on down the road. Go ahead,
Okay.
Sabina.
Yeah. I was just making notes as we were speaking. Actually, about the leak, I did want to mention that once I had that and they send me a little packet where you can put it into a toilet and if
Yes.
it turns blue, then it's like, okay, there, because sometimes you can't tell and your bill is double and like, I don't know what's going on. So
We have through water conservation, if you go to East Bay Mud, www.ebmud.com, I guess, /conservation.
Yeah.
We will send to you for free the test kits to find out if you have a leak.
yeah. So that's very extremely helpful because that kind of shows you immediately based on the color that
Right.
there's a leak there. I was going to ask you about the mandatory 10% reduction.
Mhm.
How is that going to get implemented?
Well, what we're doing is we are asking everybody to cut back 10%. Now, some people conserve a lot already.
Mhm.
So we're saying, thank you very much. There's no penalty. There's no assessment as a result of it. It's only if you go over in 1,646 gallons a day. That's when you have the $2 per unit surcharge. I'm at 36 gallons a day. I can't cut back much more. Personally, so a lot of people don't use much. And if you are not using much, thank you. You're doing your part. And there's really nothing more you can do. We know that. And that's why the penalty is a much higher rate than it would have been in the past.
Okay, so it's primarily on that usage number that you shared with us.
Yeah,
I
what you
guess.
really want to do is if you want to save as much as you can. Some people cannot save any more than they currently use.
Mhm.
We know that because they've done a phenomenal job over the years. But if somebody has the ability to take a shorter shower or run their dishwasher, washing machine at a full load, they're going to save water.
Yeah.
And it's just simple things till we get through this. And hopefully when Los Vaqueros goes online with our 30,000 acre feet of water there and our ability to get more water transfers, we will, my hope is it rains like cats and dogs and snows next year and we'll be full.
Good for
a
the
year
water
from
bill
now,
too.
but we can't guarantee there's no guarantee that's going to happen.
The Freeport Regional Water Projects, where's the water coming for that one?
That water, we take it off the Sacramento River. So for example, when we got the Central Valley Project water, we picked it up there. It's right below, the intake's right below the American River. And then it goes into the Folsom South Canal. And then it gets picked up at our aqueducts below the Folsom South Canal, near Highway 12. And then
So is it part of the state water project?
no, it's our own. We spent,
okay.
we spent ourselves $522 million, and then Sacramento County put in about $400 million.
So gray water, I recently learned about it. Can you kind of expand on how we can use gray water?
We encourage use of gray water. What we want to tell people is you have to be very careful. Do not set it up and have it touch your current pipes. You do not want to have gray water going into your potable water supply. And we've had people who thought they were doing the right thing, but what they happened to do is they were contaminating their drinking water where they can get sick, or it can even go down the line and contaminate their neighbor's water. So if it's coming from the dishwasher, the sink, and it can go, sometimes they'll run from the washing machine directly out to a hose into their yard. That's gray water. And it can be used that way for irrigation.
Irrigation and stuff, that's fine. You mentioned order a free home water survey kit. What is that?
That is where you can just find out if you have a leak.
Okay.
And you can, and it also shows you how to look on your meter to see how much water you're using. But really it's geared towards finding out if you have a leak and where it may be. And so you can get it fixed as soon as possible.
Okay. Those are all the questions I had. And one more question.
Yeah.
So how much money will we get as part of the infrastructure bill? And one of the things is, as we're part of the League of Cities and, you know, organizations like that have said, we have $40 billion that can come into California. We have to ask for it.
Yes.
So how can we ask for?
Well, I
for
can
it as well?
tell you, we're great at begging. And we have a lobbyist in DC, we have a team in Sacramento, and we go for every dollar we can get. And sometimes we're at a disadvantage for a couple reasons. One, we're not as critical shape as some water agencies are for water supply. Literally, there are some areas of the state where they cannot drink their water. They have to go to church parking lots to get the water to bathe in. They have to get the water to cook with and clean with. They can't trust the water that comes out of their tap. We're not like that, fortunately. So there's a lot of effort goes to those communities with justification why. But we go for every dollar we can get, and we work collaboratively. You know, at one time we did our own thing. It was great at one point in history, but it doesn't work. The world isn't that way anymore. You work collaboratively, partnerships, and you do with unrecycled water, you do with Los Vaqueros, for example, and you're able, as a group of people coming or entities come in, and you're able to get more money to be more effective and efficient.
And then last one is about recycled water. I know we have a supply issue because, you know, it's not there, but the demand is there, and residents ask how, as private residents, can they use that? This
is a gripe I have, and Dave and Scott know I have gripes sometimes. The state of California does not allow recycled water to be used in your backyard because they believe that there's a hazard. The fact of the matter is, recycled water is clean enough to drink. Would you want to drink it? No. Have I drank it? Yes, to show that it was safe. But the state of California has a lot of conditions in the Department of Health Services, how you can use water and where it cannot be used. So that's the biggest impediment is the state of California right now, Department of Health Services.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
John, yeah, we talked a little bit beforehand, but could you update us on the status of the Sites Reservoir and what could it do in the future, and what do you see as a timeline, and
Sites
how much money?
I don't know the dollar amount. It's probably close to $1 billion, if not more. It's going to be a large reservoir. We are not going to be beneficiaries of it. It's primarily used for ag and Southern California water interest. They're helping pay for it. So it's taking water off the Sacramento high flows, putting it on basically in a dry area where there's no water quality, where there's no impacts to aquatic life already. And ideally, and I hope the state doesn't back away from this, it's not going to be used for recreation or fisheries, because in the real world, the way it should operate is you put water in a wet period, and then you put it back into the river, Sacramento River, in fall for temperature and fish flow for the environment. And you pick it up further down off the Sacramento, and you can then restore it again if you need to back in the groundwater basin. That's how it should operate. If the state decides, oh, boating will be great there or fishing will be great there, once that happens, how it's being built to operate will not operate that way.
Okay, so this potentially solves some of the problem for ag in Southern California, which in effect takes pressure off of the rest of the system. Do we benefit in a secondary effect then?
Well, absolutely. If there's more storage available, then everybody's going to benefit. We need more storage. It's not going to be above ground. That's just, I mean, it's unless it's like a Sites Reservoir or a Los Vaqueros that's being built in an area where was not existing water. It's going to be built for conjunctive use, putting the water in the ground, extracting it from the ground when it is needed in a period of time of drought. So we need to do more of that. I still am a firm believer in desal. We need to, where it can be done, it needs to be built, and it should be built. And I talked about it because there's discussions with some other agencies up here about maybe putting around Pittsburgh and Antioch, because there's our pipeline and the Contra Costa Waters pipeline right there. And to try and get some of the environmental support saying, let's make it energy net neutral, like they do in Australia. Use tidal, solar, and wind, because the largest problem with desal is the cost of energy to do the desal. So if you can do those categories and get rid of the operational cost of energy, then the argument against it really goes away.
You know, John, I need to talk to you personally about a project at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. It's a desalination project, but it's done through capacitive system, and the energy usage is a fraction of what you use in a reverse osmosis type system, because you're not pushing water against a membrane, and so you don't have the great big pump losses and things.
Yeah, as Scott Wilson, who probably know Scott,
Yeah.
he actually gave me a tour of it several years ago, what they're doing.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean,
unfortunately, it's smaller right now. It's smaller than a lunchbox, but they believe that the scaling is possible, but it has never been scaled.
it needs to, I mean, quite frankly, in California, if you get right down to it, we have enough water. It's how we use it and where we get it and how we process it. I'm not saying, I'd like to see more water flowing in the rivers for the aquatic life and for the environment and for recreation. But let's be realistic. And when I was the president of the Association of California Water Agencies, my friends in Southern California didn't like this. I said, let's do a water bond and let's pay for desal in Southern California. We'll pay for the capital improvement projects and you pay for the O&M. And they said, no, we're going to get it from the Delta and the Colorado. Well, we're in a drought. There's less water coming from both sources. And I suspect if we had done a state water bond measure where we would have the state would have paid for the entirety of the building of the projects, they would be in better shape and the state would have supported it, because that would have meant there'd been more water available. And we may not be in the situation we are today.
Yeah, well, the statistics are showing that while many Northern California communities are cutting back 10 and 15%, some Southern California communities are using 10 and 15% more.
It is, but they also need to be, I'm not a fan, I'm not going to go SoCal, but Orange County, they use 100 million gallons a day of recycled water. That's counted in their total usage.
Oh.
So that's not being segregated out. 100 million gallons of recycled water a day is part of their drinking water supply.
Yeah, so there's statistics and then there's damn statistics. Right?
Exactly. You can use them how you want to use them.
Darn, not the dam, but with the water. Okay. Go ahead. You finished? Mark and then Sridhar.
Yeah, John, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much. We're obviously in a rough year, drought year. I remember the 76 drought and some of the extreme measures that we had to take as a family to deal with that back then. I get a lot of feedback from residents about a lot of the concern that they have. A lot of our development proposals and things like that is the ability to serve those new developments with water. And it sounds like East Bay Mud's doing okay. I mean, it's a drought year, things are rough, but you've got capacity, you've got infrastructure, you've got ability to deliver water at this time. what do you tell the residents who are concerned right now about the ability to serve future projects that are under consideration for development?
That's a great question because I get it as well all the time. Again, bottom line, back in 76, 1.1 million customers, today 1.4. We're using over 300 million gallons of water a day. We're now using about 150 million gallons of water a day. So there's been a substantial decrease. Our capacity of our reservoirs are actually in, pretty decent shape. Am I going to be ecstatic and jump up and down? No, because we don't know again what next year's going to portend. But we work with the ABAG in developing the numbers from ABAG in our long-term water supply, because we look out 40 to 50 years at an increment, is designed to look at what ABAG's numbers are to make sure that we are going to have the supply of water we need to meet the demands within our service area. And again, if we'd had the same drought situation of water that we had this year in previous droughts, we'd be in much different shape in terms of, because people use so much more, and we didn't have the Freeport, we didn't have recycled water, we didn't have the conservation that we have. And that's all part of our portfolio that's enabled us, quite frankly, to operate as a system where we're delivering water. And yeah, could it happen where we run out of water? I guess yes, it could, I guess. I can't say it wouldn't, but the likelihood is very unlikely. If we have a normal year next year, our reservoirs will be full in September of 2023.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're pretty confident, at least with the current developments that we have under consideration, and probably future ones that are going to be considered, that you're going to be able to serve.
Yeah, because
those
in most
projects.
cases, and they have to, if it's over 500 units, they have to go through an EIR process and has to identify the water source, and we have to say whether we have a water or not. And our goal is to make sure that if something new comes online, that does not have a negative impact on our current customers. That is our goal.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you, Mark.
Sridhar?
Thank you, John, for presentation.
Thank you.
So one thing I was looking for in this presentation is about forever chemical PFAS.
Mhm.
Do we have any issues about that in East Bay Mud, or if we have?
No, because most of our water, again, comes from Pardee Reservoir. So it's up country. The PFAS issue is really more in where you're collecting water in urban areas. And so our water is very pure, and PFAS has not been an issue in Pardee Reservoir. We test our water literally every 4 hours when it goes through the pipes at our filter treatment plants, and as well as where it enters, to make sure we don't have any chemicals of contamination, including PFAS or anything other chemicals that would have a negative impact on the health of our customers.
Sounds good. My next question is regarding, piggyback on the Council Member Armstrong's question. Do you have any forecast modeling, like how you estimate the usage of the water? Is it like increasing, or like in next 10 years?
Decreasing the water usage is actually decreasing per capita.
Nice. Yeah, so that's good to know. And my next question is, you mentioned that the bills, the charges or variables are chemicals and electricity, if I remember right? But then what is the surcharge for drought?
The surcharge for drought is to buy more water and to make up for lost revenue. Because we know we're going to lose about $31 million at a 10% reduction in water conservation. So that will help pay for the $31 million in lost revenue. And as we go out and buy water from whether it be Placer County or Yuba County or wherever, that's helping pay for that as well.
Oh, okay. I thought we are in decreasing mode of usage of water, but because of the drought, we are not.
Well, it's increased in part. It's helping pay for the decrease in water usage, because then we have to run our system, and we need to make sure that we have adequate, not only supply, but dollars to run our system and operations. And we have to be prepared for an earthquake that's going to happen at some point, and we know that. And there's going to be things that are going to happen that we can't plan for. So we need to make sure that we have the capital resources available to respond as quickly as possible. And so we have a lot of contracts out with companies. We may not even use them, but as a result, if there's an emergency, we have a standing contract and we can just add money to it versus having to go and create a contract with these companies and to to be able to respond as we need to respond.
So you're saying when you go and buy this water from other agencies,
Yeah.
you like, what could be the difference in the price of the one which you produce and
Oh, it's a lot more per acre foot. It can be as high as almost $1,000 an acre foot versus around $400 an acre foot. But it's also an insurance policy because that enables us, again, we don't know what next year will portend. It could be dry or wet or normal. But if it's dry, if we have more water in our reservoirs next year as a result of the water we bought now, because we don't know next year, if it's extremely dry, there may not be water to buy. We don't know. That allows us to be able to operate the system with greater flexibility.
so is it possible for us to find within last 10 years, how many times we had to do this drought surcharge?
Well, the drought surcharge is, I believe it's set to end in a year from about now, because we don't, again, we set the budget and the rates and they take effect on July 1 of every year. So it should go through until June of 2023.
2023. So
it's hoping it's wet, then we can say it's over, we can get rid of it.
okay, so is that mean that the next, after 2023, when this contract is over, you're going to negotiate with all these agencies? Where I'm coming, the point is how we can avoid increasing these charges on our residents. Is it because of these surcharges that making them to pay more? So why don't we plan such a way that we can handle that kind of drought situations rather than going to these different agencies and buying this water?
Well, we don't, again, we need to buy the water. Otherwise, if we didn't buy the water, we'd have a higher level of rationing, which actually would drive up the cost even higher.
Okay,
Because
so that means whether it is drought or not, we are still going to buy.
we're going to buy the water if we need to buy it. But if we don't have the water to buy and we have 41,000, I think it's 41,000 acre feet of water that we are buying or bought, that would mean there's 41,000 acre feet less of water in storage, which then maybe moves us from a level 2 category to a level 3 as we look at storage going into September of each year. And that would then drive up our level of rationing, the percent. And the percent, when we go up to a higher percent, that means we have less revenue generated because we're telling people to use less water.
So irrespective of that, we are going to surcharge. We're
going to surcharge through this fiscal year, yes, because we don't know what it's going to do for the following year, but we're buying water on the open market. And also we're losing revenue as a result of the drought, telling people to conserve water.
Yeah, I think you need to have some forecast models so that you can forecast and make sure that we need to figure out how to avoid these surcharges.
Well,
so that
I'm on the board, I'm 1 of 7, and I happen to believe that we should have a higher base rate. And a higher base rate would mean that if you have a higher base rate, everybody pays a little bit more now. And when we cut back, we don't lose as much revenue as a result. And that would allow us to actually maybe not to have the 8% surcharge or have a less surcharge than we currently have. But the majority of the board doesn't agree with me on that issue.
Yeah, so I know you have your challenges, but then we should leverage the infrastructure bill also to see how we can add the capacity and avoid these surcharges. These are like, end of the day, the community residents are paying for it. And every year we see, or every time we keep seeing this increase in the water bills, and we get
the water. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to try and fool anybody. So every year water bills go up.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're finding actually now chemicals have gone up dramatically since the supply chain issue, as well as now we all know the price of power has gone up radically. And most chemicals are actually made from oil. A lot of people aren't aware of that. And so as supply chain is impacting not only our agency, but every water and wastewater agency in this country.
Yeah. So see, those things not in your control, right? Like, for example, chemicals and energy, and anyway, it's out of your control. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to have a good model to forecast of the water and avoid these surcharges so that we can give the charges that we continuously increase, we need to see how we can avoid that to our consumers. So that's one thing. And another thing is I would like to mention is while I was driving on Bollinger Canyon Road, I saw this RSD banner. It's a nice banner. It says conserve water 3 days only. So I think if you can, I don't know, I didn't drive the other sites. I didn't see anywhere in the banners, other sites. So
We're
it will be
starting a
nice.
promotion period to tell people to conserve water and how to conserve water and where they can contact us to conserve. Again, we told people 10%. We're expecting probably within less than 2 weeks, it's going to be increased to 15% by the governor or the State Water Resources Control Board.
Yeah, it will be nice if you can have some banners so that people can remind, or even we can have our
We're going to
marquee.
be we're going to be doing TV advertisement. We're also working with the state agencies on that. So we'll be helping, trying to get the message out to everybody who's in our service area. And if you get an electronic bill, you don't get our bill insert. But if you get a hard paper bill every 2 months, we have a thing that talks about what you need to do and what you can do to save water. But we need to get the message out there. I think most people are well aware that we're in a drought. It's a question of how serious it is and what they can do in order to conserve water.
Oh yeah, that banner definitely works because every time I drive, it reminds me, hey, yeah. So on the flow meter rebate thing, is that for every resident or is it only for qualified residents? How it works?
For all residents who wish to get the flow meter, I think it's about it's $200 rebate if I'm not mistaken. I think it costs about $400. So we pay one half of it.
Fantastic. And one more question is regarding the recycled water that already Council Member Jafar asked, right? So I do get questions regarding that from HOAs, homeowner associations, not an individual user backyards, but how about these HOAs? Can they get access to recycled water?
Potentially where we have the pipelines, but our biggest problem is right now, we know that as soon as Contra Central Sanitary District needs their flow, we're not going to have that flow going into DSRSD to be processed and then shipped anywhere within our service area. We're trying to identify new sources of flow. That's a great word. New sources of flow.
So basically we don't have recycled water.
We're in September, October, August, September are the timeframes when we're producing as much as there is to produce, we sell it that day.
Sounds good. Thanks for answering my questions.
And I'll check on the DSRSD issue as well for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, John, I have two things, but do you also have a page 31 and 32? But I want to touch on one. I almost laughed when you said the battles that we had over Freeport.
Yes.
How many times that Freeport moved up the river and down the river. This was not a battle. This was a war battle royal. This went on. I don't think you'll ever get a politician to do this twice.
It went on for 50 years. It went back to after World War II, the discussions with the Bureau of Reclamation to get that water. At the time, we were going to get it off the American River.
Auburn Dam.
Well, that's not going to happen either, Dave. But when we were in the midst of trying to get a project built for literally at that time on the American River, we only had then Congressman Ellen Tauscher, Senator Dick Rainey, and Senator Feinstein were the only people who supported us either in Sacramento or Washington, D.C. We're able to work on a deal with Freeport, which is actually in hindsight much better than what we'd have had on the American, but it's there and we're using it now when we need to use it. And again, I view it as an insurance policy.
I think you nailed it. That's what it is. Remembering some of those days and where we'd be without it, I don't even want to think about right now.
We would be in a much worse situation today if we didn't have it and didn't use it earlier this year.
And maybe one example of this, and I still don't understand how this is happening, because I remember seeing that the pipeline, how are you going to get water to Marin County?
Well,
and are they going to leave the pipe in this time?
No, the pipeline they decided not to do it. I talked with their general manager who I know and their board president who I know. I wasn't opposed to it, but the caveat was it wasn't going to be our water because that water we have is for our customers.
Yeah.
So they would have to get water from wherever and they could have used Freeport to transfer it into our system and then transfer it across. The pipeline is not being built because December, the reservoirs were full. And however, you know, we've had a dry year and they're going to come back at some point in the future and say, oh my God, we don't have water. Well, I was pretty blunt with them. I said, you know, you've created your own situation. You've not increased your supply. You've not diversified your portfolio.
Yep.
And I said, if you built a pipeline, I fully expect you're going to become a partner on Los Vaqueros to buy into it and become a partner on the desal project as well. And I said, for me, that was what you needed to do in order to get the pipeline built. But I wasn't opposed because it wasn't going to be our water. I just wanted to say, my email's up here.
Yep.
My phone number, if anybody needs to reach me, is 510-590.
He knows it.
023. Again, 510-590-023. My goal is always to respond within 24 hours. And I just want to say, thank you very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed representing the city of San Ramon and all the great people down here. I'm sorry, I may have cut you off a question.
No, you didn't. I mean, I thank you. And I think we all appreciate because it gives us an opportunity to ask questions that people would have asked if they'd had come in at public
It's abs-
comment.
It's absolutely terrific that you come here,
Yeah.
John. We really do appreciate it. Not everybody that's serving the public gets out into the public like you do.
But you
And
don't
we-
learn if you don't.
Yeah.
And you're very honest, transparent, and forthright about your answers and what can be done and what can't be done. And we do appreciate it.
And I'm actually surprised that more people aren't because they were requesting it. I said, well, John was just here.
Mhm.
And when I heard they were coming up, I think I even emailed a couple of them. So, you know, when you see what goes on, it's a tough world. I wouldn't want your job. I mean, it's because I remember what you were going through. I mean, it was like
When I
that
started,
Freeport
Dave, I
was-
had a lot of hair and it was dark.
Yes.
I don't now.
Yeah. But I think that I know my questions were more, what about with the fires and stuff? But I can see where a lot of other people are in a lot worse shape in this. And I think you guys have figured it out pretty well. As long as we only go up 4%, we'll calm down a little bit here. We won't, you go to 4.5, we'll come after you with knives.
It's
and
4%.
forks,
It's
but
4% July 1.
yeah. Anyway, thank you very much
Thank
for the
you.
presentation. We'll move on. Thank you again
Thank you
for
so much
coming.
again.
And no further questions. All the public has theirs on 4 and nobody knew how smart you were. So now they know. Thank you, John. All right. There are no deferred consent calendar items for tonight. Let's get on to city council appointments. Brad, I believe you have a library advisory committee recommendation.
Yes, Mayor Hudson, City Council, thank you very much for having me again here this evening. It's a pleasure to be here. We have 2 recommendations this evening from the Parks and Community Services Department for appointment. One for our Library Advisory Committee and the next one for our Senior Advisory Committee. We'll be looking for 2 separate motions, one for each committee.
Okay.
So if I would like to start with we'll start with the Library Advisory Committee. The Library Advisory Committee consists of 5 members with 2 alternates. Currently, there is 1 vacancy on that committee as an alternate position. The city clerk announced the vacancy. Notices were placed on the city website, in city facilities and distributed through Nextdoor. 1 applicant was received and interviewed by the subcommittee by the Parks and Community Services Commission. The commission reviewed that recommendation at their May 11th meeting and are recommending the appointment of Musumi Katakota to serve as alternate number 2 to the Library Advisory Committee with a term to expire March 2024.
Okay. Questions of staff? Seeing none, they're ahead of me. Look at these movers and shakers trying to get in motion. Perkins, second. Sapphire, please vote. It's 5 of 5. She was that good. Thanks, Brad. On to Senior Citizen Advisory.
Yes, so now if we can move on to the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. This committee consists of 7 members and 2 alternates. There are currently 2 vacancies consisting of the 2 alternate positions. The city clerk announced these vacancies. Again, it was noticed in the city website, city facilities, and distributed through Nextdoor. 1 application was received and interviewed by the subcommittee of the Parks and Community Services Commission. The commission reviewed the recommendations at their May 11th meeting and I'm recommending the appointment of Sandra Lee March as the alternate one with the term to expire March 2024.
Okay, before we have questions of staff, did anybody turn in a card to speak under 8.1?
Not on this item, no.
Okay, thank you. 8.2, we're back to any clarifying questions before these quick ones are. Gee, many Christmas. We have a motion for Rose. That's right. You're just not quick enough. Second by Armstrong. Okay. Is there anyone who wishes a public comment on this item, 8.2?
I don't have any speaker cards
Oh.
and there's no hands raised on Zoom.
All right, we have 5 of 5. Congratulations on our 2 new appointees, and thank you, Brad. We
Thank
will
you very
move on to 9.2. Wait a minute, 9.1, right? All right. I just can't believe how quick you guys are with this thing. I got to turn the pages. All right, this is unfinished business. We are going to do a public hearing for resolution number 2022-95, and that's approving the amended engineer's report confirming the landscaping and lighting district number 1984-1 diagram assessments and levying the landscape and lighting district number 1984-1 assessment for fiscal year 2022-23. So
Good evening.
You're up, Sean.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Yes.
I'm here tonight to talk about the Landscape and Lighting District 1984-1 and to open the public hearing. A few facts about the Landscape and Lighting District. The district was formed in 1984. Its annual property owner assessments, the assessment fund maintenance of public landscape, lighting, and other amenities. There's 19 separate zones, 2 citywide zones, and 17 special zones. And the district is reestablished each year by council action. Here's a map that's showing all of the different districts and the zones. Here's some completed projects that we did in 21-22. We did some citywide lighting. This is some some signal pole painting. We plan to do about 5 to 6 a year. This is just one example of what it looked like before and an after picture. We did some LED lighting at the intermodal transit facility. That was part of an LED project we did. Here's some landscaping we did on Old Ranch Road in the center median, a little before and after picture. We did some mulching here on Deerwood Drive. This is a hillside we planted several years ago, which you can see that it's filling in very nicely. And we did some new mulch there that's about 5 years old. Speaking of turf conversions, which we just heard about earlier, this is a turf conversion we did on Village Parkway, or not on Village Parkway, it's Village Parkway zone. It's on Shavano. This is another landscape renovation we did in Crown Ridge along West Side Drive. It used to be ground cover. Now we did individual plantings. Reserve study. The reserve study was completed and presented to the Finance Committee on May 9th of 2022. This assesses adequacy of funds over a 30-year period. It does renovations, replacements, emergency repairs, and unforeseen circumstances. Maximum assessment rate versus a assessment rate. A maximum assessment rate is not to exceed assessment amount voted and approved by property owners for each zone based on improvements to be maintained and replaced and renovated. Assessment rate is an actual assessment charged annually to property owners on their property tax bills. Maximum assessment rates, citywide zone 1 and 2. City may increase maximum rate annually based on CPI up to 2% per property owner approved ballot in 2006. Special zones 3 through 12, maximum rates set by property owner balloting in 1997. Zone 5 by special ballot election in July of 1997. Increase would require property owner ballot approval. Special zones 13 through 17 established after 1997. Maximum rates established through property owner balloting at time of creation. An increase would require property owner ballot approval. And special zones 18 and 19 established after 1997. Maximum rates established through property owner balloting at the time of creation. property owners approved a maximum rate increase of up to 2% annually based on CPI. Here's some recommended increases, citywide lighting and landscape. The CPI this year was 5.2% in February of 2022. The increase for citywide lighting will be 66 cents to the maximum rate and $1.44 to citywide landscape for a total of $2.10 per unit. Another recommended increase would be the zone 8 Deerwood, an increase from 100 to 115, which is their maximum rate. Another recommended increase is the Glass House. Once again, it has a maximum increase of 2%, and it'll be $15,188.40 per parcel. Some recommended decreases. This is a 1-year only decrease. We're looking at Canyon Lakes, a decrease from $80 to $0 this year, just because of the revenue that they have in their fund balance. Country View, Zone 9, a decrease from $100 to $50. Old Ranch Estates, a decrease from $320 to $300. Circle E, a decrease from $250 to $200. Old Ranch Summit from $500 to $350. And the Glass House, we are decreasing from $14,656 to $14,000 even. And no changes to the rest of the assessments.
On the previous page, you increased it.
I just increased the maximum.
Oh, you increased the
Yeah,
maximum.
yeah. It increases the maximum of the 2%, but we actually lowered the assessment.
That's the difference between the max rate and the assessed rate.
Exactly. Okay, so here's some upcoming projects that we're looking at for 22-23. Again, we're doing some more of the streetlight pole painting. Iron Horse Trail overcrossing, which was mentioned earlier. Still working on that. Some more citywide landscape in Zone 2. This is Bollinger Canyon Road. It's just above Memorial Park in the center median, and Deerwood Road, which we worked on last year, and we will probably complete Deerwood Road going down to Omega. And this is Canyon Lakes. This is actually on Crow Canyon Road. This is just before Canyon Crest. Do some planting up in that area. Woodview Terrace, Vista San Ramon. They actually requested to mulch the center median up on Woodview Terrace. So that's in the works. Summerwood Loop, we will be doing some planting throughout Summerwood Loop in the bare areas. West Branch, the fountains, which we'll discuss in some later slides. Doherty Road, Bent Creek. This is more turf removal, where we actually go in and we replant and modify the irrigation to bubblers.
Are we getting pretty close to the end of turf removal that's not directly related to active, park areas?
In the zones, yes. I think Village Parkway and Bent Creek are pretty much the last of turf areas in all the zones.
And the one we did out on Bollinger, 10, 12 years ago, out towards Crow, that is just fantastic. Before it was just turf and a few olive trees, and the appearance of that,
Looks
here we
amazing.
are a dozen years later, and it's fantastic. I drive by it and I think we got that one right.
It looks amazing. Same with the corner of Bollinger where the fountain used to be.
Yeah.
Yep. Next one, Country View. We're looking at replacing the irrigation controller and some irrigation valves. Old Ranch Estates. There's 7 courts off Old Ranch Estates that has old drip tubing irrigation that we're looking at replacing and replanting. This is a big project. We won't get to all 7 of these within a year, but this is a multi-year project to redo all of these areas on the courts.
These are mostly done by our landscape contractors.
Correct.
You
Correct.
just ask them when doing it.
Yeah, so what we do is we pretty much do a drawing for them and what we're looking at, and then we talk about, converting the irrigation, what parts to use, and then we work with them and get it done.
Good.
This is the last turf conversion that I mentioned earlier on Shavano Way at Village Parkway. Here's another controller upgrade on El Nido. Henry Ranch, this is along San Ramon Valley Boulevard. We're going to add some trees to this area. This is an area that there's a lot of trees on San Ramon Valley Boulevard, but for some reason Henry Ranch doesn't have a lot. So we're going to add some trees to this area. This is a glass house. We actually started on this project. This year we've repaired all the vendor board and repaired the pathway with new DG. We just finished it actually this week. So what we're looking at this coming year is replanting all these areas, and we're actually looking at doing a community outreach like a Parks Make Life Better to have the residents be part of this and come and refurbish this. And there's no scheduled capital improvements for Deerwood, Four Oaks, Thomas Ranch, or Old Ranch Summit. They'll just continue their annual maintenance. Some special zone highlights. We have Summerwood Loop, Vista San Ramon, and West Branch. So Summerwood Loop. Field meeting was held on May 10th with a property owner to discuss proposed landscape plans for the park strips throughout Summerwood Loop. We had a follow-up meeting with property owners, and it was held to go over the proposed landscape plans. We actually sent out a mailer to show them, and then several residents showed up to talk about the new planting that we were looking at Summerwood Loop. In the zone, we have eliminated the asphalt path maintenance from the zone. We also, due to a comment from a resident, we actually have taken Springfield Drive out of our maintenance plan for our landscape maintenance. Then we clarified maintenance responsibility with respect to the 1997 ballot. We clarified Zone 2 and Zone 5 allocations. And we added capital improvements as previously described, which I talked about when we met with the residents. And an engineer report has been amended to reflect these changes. Some underfunded special zones. Vista San Ramon, the maximum assessment rate is 180. It will actually go negative in 24-25 just by operating budget. West Branch Zone 6, which we talked about earlier with the fountains, their maximum assessment rate is 380, and it will actually go negative in 23-24. Currently, the step fountain is inoperable, and the reflections fountain is temporarily repaired. So we need to do some public outreach with Zone 4 and Zone 6, and then consider balloting Zone 4 and Zone 6 in 22-23. Real quick about Vista San Ramon, discussions have been held with Vista San Ramon HOA regarding balloting. A letter was sent to the HOA describing the process. The HOA has proposed improvements that they are interested in. So our next steps will be to evaluate costs, meet directly with the residents within Zone 4, and prepare an engineer's report and complete the balloting process. West Branch zone improvements. Okay, so this is the fountain, $110,000 to repair the step fountain. So in 22-23, we actually put it in the CIP budget to repair the motor and electrical components for the step fountain equipment vault. Alternatively, funds may be used for maintenance activities related to the reflection fountain, development of alternatives to the current step fountain, and/or evaluation of funding alternatives for repair of the fountain in its current configuration. The step fountain's components were damaged with water infiltrated when water infiltrated the vault as a result of a failed valve. West Branch Zone 6 is currently at their maximum assessment and is unable to fund large repairs. Due to supply chain issues, the main breaker currently has a lead time of up to 12 months. The power of the step fountain also feeds the reflection fountain. Staff received a quote to isolate the power from the step to the reflection fountain so the reflection fountain can operate when the step fountain is not operational. Per Finance Committee's request, we actually got the reflection fountain up and running. It was a $14,773 fee to do that, the total cost. The funding actually came from Zone 6 operating budget, just from our PG&E savings from having those fountains down for 2 months. So here's a couple other things about West Branch Fountain that I wanted to bring up. This is our 10-year plan as far as the fountains. As you can see, we put in the budget, the CIP budget for 110,000 to either replace the step fountain or repair the step fountain or looking at possible replacement. 23-24, some tablet feeders. And as you can see, there's some big ticket items in 25-26, the recoding of the step fountain. It's been several years and we've actually pushed it back 5 years just from them not having budget within Zone 6 to do this work, with a total in the next 10 years of 459,600. This is another, just an annual operating cost for the fountains. The maintenance contract for the step fountain alone is 20,340 a year. The maintenance contract for the reflections fountain is another 19,000. PG&E, just to run the fountains, is $90,000 a year. Maintenance equipment and repairs and supplies, 4,800. And overall water budget, this is landscape included, is $77,000 a year for a total of $211,000 a year just to run fountains.
There's no option to change that to solar or something like that, are there?
I would have to look into it with the facilities people.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever really, to be honest, looked at that.
Because it's
So,
it's the
could be an
motor
option.
that primarily costs that much constantly running,
Yeah,
right?
just turning on and off. So,
Yeah.
yep. And then you remember the fountain only runs from what, 6 to 10, and then does it come on in the evenings anymore? I honestly can't remember. Okay, so steps taken annually by the city council, adopted a resolution describing new improvements and ordering the preparation and filing of the engineer's report. That happened on March 22nd of 22. That's complete. Approve the engineer's report and adopt a resolution of intention to levy and collect assessments and setting a public hearing. That's what was on May 10th, and that was approved by the Finance Committee. And tonight, conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution confirming the diagram and assessments and levying the assessments. And the final step is to file the final engineer's report together with the assessment roll and the assessment diagram with the Contra Costa County Assessor's Office by August 10th. Recommendation, City Council conduct a public hearing and approve resolution approving the amended engineer's report confirming the landscape and lighting district number 1984-1 diagram and assessments and levying the landscape and lighting district number 1984-1 assessments for fiscal year 22-23. Questions?
Okay, any questions of staff before I call for a motion to open the public hearing?
I had a
Go ahead.
quick question. Can you just give me the real summary level on what the balloting process is for like Vista San Ramon or West Branch? I mean, residents have been notified about a balloting process. What is that?
Yeah, so basically what we did with Vista is looking at the reserve study, we see, how many years they're out. So what we do, we actually talked to the HOA and we sent them a letter discussing the process of balloting to send out, a ballot to the residents to do a reassessment to raise their assessment rates. So fortunately with the HOA, they're actually taking it to the residents first. And then once they're done, then we'll meet with the residents.
Okay, so this is a mailer or something to the residents?
Correct.
Okay.
Robin, was that-
Okay.
Just checking.
The other question I had, you made a comment earlier about in the Summerwood area about neighbor input on the Springfield Drive area. Can you clarify what that is? We got some feedback from a resident, and I don't know if it was addressing that issue or a different issue.
So it was addressing that issue, and Springfield Drive is an area that a resident is, they're saying it's not part of the zone. They're saying that zone funding should not be used to maintain this area. So we are looking into that, and currently right now, we are not going to be doing landscape maintenance on Springfield Drive.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, do you have a motion to open a Public hearing? Okay, we have a motion. You're too slow. Motion for Rose. Do we have a second? Second so far. Okay. And do we have any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment for the motion? Seeing none, okay.
Mayor, we do have our hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask next. Can we put them in and let's hear what they have to say about the motion?
So we,
Is this a discussion of the motion or is this a discussion of the landscape and lighting district?
It's a discussion of the motion to open a public hearing.
Is the public wants to discuss the motion of opening a public hearing?
Yep.
Curious.
the individual has their hand raised for the public hearing.
Oh, for the public hearing, but not for the motion to open the public hearing.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm getting close to when I'm going to call a break. Okay, good call on that. Thank you. Any discussion on just the motion? Seeing none, let's vote. We did. Now, we've done that. The public comment is on the lighting and landscaping. And let them in.
We do have one written comment and
I've
then
got that too, but I'll do that afterwards.
Susie Ferris Indercom has her hand raised.
Okay, Susie, now you have a written one here. Do you also want to do public comment on this, something different or?
No, Mayor Hudson, actually what I'd like to do is just state that I appreciate the efforts of the city attorney to work with my attorney. But I also want to make it clear that I do not feel that a 37-year resident of San Ramon should have to resort to legal actions to get justice done in any of the lighting and landscaping districts. I should not have had to do that. I came before the city council many, many times about these issues, and they were ignored, or I was in some ways humiliated by doing it. So I just want to let you know that I don't think that was right, but I do appreciate you, the city council, and certainly the landscaping organization for listening to me this time and proposing to make it correct. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have the written comments you can read also. Each of you have it in your packet. Seeing that, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? He's trying to get in there quick. Let's see if he did it. Motion Zafar, second Perkins. And looks like we all want to close the public hearing. Am I missing someone? Who
Yep.
didn't? What?
Rose, go.
We'll take a hand bit on him. Yes, okay. The matter is, well, first of all, it's too late to discuss the motion. I think we've all figured it out. The matters before the council on action to move approval of number 22095. Any comments first? Or do we have a motion to do that? There you go. Congratulations. They let you in. Motion Perkins, second Zafar. We'll get the all in favor of. Okay, it's 5-5. We want to do it. I'm debating on this one. Instead of opening this, why don't we take the 5-10 minute break? We normally do at 9 o'clock and then come back and open it up. Does that make sense to all of you?
Right.
I'm looking. Yep. Because we are going to do discussion beyond that unless you want to just do, okay. So we will take 5 to 10 minute break, be back here by 9 o'clock, and we'll start with the next assessment and then get on to new business. Thank you. Okay, let's call the city council meeting back to order. We are, look at that, Robin's ahead of me already. We're on to item 9.2. And staff report, Robin Bartlett, go for it.
Well, good evening, Mayor and City Council. So I have the 1984 L&L's baby brother here, the Preserve Lighting and Landscape District. And this is our annual public hearing for the assessments. So just as a quick recap before the hearing, the district was formed in 2018. The assessments fund the maintenance of public landscaping for the preserve development, and residents pay a separate assessment for the citywide landscaping portions of the L&L 1984 Zone 1 and 2. Of course, this is the Faria Preserve area, and in this map, the improvements are all located along Faria Preserve Parkway, which is the collector there, and it predominantly consists of the landscaping elements and associated irrigation. There's a path, retaining walls, benches, and a fountain.
The open space preserve, what finances that?
The open space in that area immediately around the preserve development will be part of the Northwest San Ramon GAD.
No, the dedicated open space that's to the north and
dedicated
west.
open space was preserved and by the developer and funded separately with endowments and turned over to, I believe some of it's being turned over to the Park District.
Good. Okay, thank you.
So for the preserve, so far for the landscaping area, no improvements have been accepted to date. We were expecting improvements to be accepted by the end of this year, but that has not yet materialized. So in looking forward to next year's activity, we expect to be maintaining approximately 50% of the improvements for the entire year, and about the other 50% for maybe half the year, for an overall effort that will be equivalent to about 75% of a full year. As with the L&L 1984, we talked about the maximum assessment rates, which is the not to exceed assessment amount that was voted on and approved by the property owners. And then the actual assessment charged, or the rate to be levied, which is the amount that shows up on the property bills, and that can be less than the maximum assessment. So for the preserve, the maximum assessment rate at formation was $363.13 per benefit point. The initial assessment can be increased by the greater of Consumer Price Index or 2%. The current maximum assessment is $381.13. The CPI was 5.19%. Therefore, the maximum assessment that can be increased by 5.19% to $400.51. And for reference, a single family home in the Faria Preserve is 1 benefit point, but a condominium is only 0.75. So reviewing the budget, the estimated annual maintenance and replacement costs, again, using that 75% factor, is estimated to be $121,117. There is a general benefit contribution deduction from that is $9,592, leading to total assessable costs of $111,524. There's incidental costs for the tax roll fees and administration of $8,500 to give us a maximum cost that can be assessed of $120,024. As I indicated, we had not yet taken any improvements for maintenance. Therefore, the reserve, there's been a reserve accumulated from previous assessments in order to keep the reserves to the appropriate levels as indicated by the Streets and Highway Code, and to not overassess the residents. We're applying $35,270.51 from that reserve to the upcoming costs. Therefore, the total assessment will be $84,753.91 or $215.93 per unit.
If I remember right, that CPI we are taking from February 20.
That's correct.
That's
So
correct.
it's gone up since then.
Yeah.
So the steps taken annually by the City Council on March 23, 2022, we adopted a resolution describing the new improvements and ordering the preparation and filing of the engineer's report. May 9th, there was a review of the engineer's report by the Finance Committee, followed by on May 10th, the approval of the engineer's report and adoption of a resolution and intent to levy and collect the assessments and setting the public hearing. This evening, we are conducting that public hearing and adoption of a resolution confirming the diagram and assessments and the levying the assessments. And then the final step will be by August 10th, filing the engineer's report together with the assessment roll and the assessment diagram with the Contra Costa County Assessor's Office. So with that, the recommendation is for the City Council to conduct the public hearing and approve the resolution confirming the preserved landscape and lighting district diagram and assessments and the levying the assessments for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
Any questions of staff before the motion? Who's going to be the first one in? Gee, many Christmas. You guys are quick. I have a motion for Safar, second by Barros. And again, this is to open the public hearing for resolution 2022-96, confirming the preserved landscape and lighting district assessment, diagram and assessments, and levying the preserves landscape and lighting district assessment for fiscal year 2022-2023. All right, is there any further discussion on the motion? Council voted. Any public comment? No public comment. No one wants to raise their hand. No star and I.
Want to record the vote?
Did we? Yes, 5 of 5. Thank you. If there's no further comment in it, what is the pleasure of the council to close the public? You guys did it again? Wait a minute. No way. No, we've got to open it first.
We did.
Okay, motion for Rose, second Perkins. This is a fast voting crew tonight. And that's a 5-0 vote, 5 out of 5 vote to confirm the closing of the motion. And where are we? Next comments? Any further? We voted to close the public hearing. Do you want to adopt this thing? Motion Perkins, second Safar. We're waiting. There you go. And it's a 5 out of 5 vote too. So we've got the preserve, we've got the L&L. Go forth, do the rest of the paperwork, and let's move on to new business. New business is 10.1. It's a resolution number 2022-97, establishing a word count limit for the voluntary candidate statement for the 2022 municipal election. And we have a staff report from Christina Franco.
Yes, good evening. For the upcoming municipal election, the city consolidates the candidate statement printing with the county. The county does charge a candidate statement fee at a flat rate for 250 words. The election code does allow the governing body of the local agency to authorize word limitations anywhere from 200 to 400 word limit. Historically, San Ramon has allowed over the 250 word count for the candidate statements. The county will allow more than 250 words, but anything over 250 words automatically doubles the cost of the candidate statement. Candidates are solely responsible for the cost of their statements as they are optional. And additionally, the city does not charge a filing fee to run for elected office. So for the November 8th, 2022 election, the county will not have exact cost estimates available until early July, but they have indicated that there will be an increase of anywhere from 15 to 20% of the cost of the candidate statement from last year's cost. So I did include the breakdown of what those estimated costs would be for the candidate statements for 200 words and then anything above 250 words. At the policy committee, they did review and discuss this item, and they discussed, their discussion was to set the word limit to 250 words. Tonight, staff is requesting that the council establish a word limit for the voluntary candidate statement, taking into consideration the cost and benefits the effect will have on potential candidates.
Okay, any questions of staff? Seeing none, let's open the public comment. Any cards?
I did not receive any speaker cards on this item, and we do not have any hand raised on
No
this.
hands, no star nine. Let's close the public comment. The matters before the council, I would just say, Scott, were we at 250 or was I at 250?
You were, I recommended 400.
That's
but-
what I thought. Okay. So further discussion from the council. I just want to get it out that it wasn't old policy going, yeah, let's do the 250. No. And I'm soft on it. I mean, I gave my reason. He gave his reasons. Anybody wants to hear it, we'll repeat it.
We did 400 at the last.
Yeah.
And Christina, if a member submits, if we set the limit at 400, but a member submits a word count less than 250, they pay the 250 rate. Is that correct? No.
No, once
No.
the city adopts a different limit, the
Okay.
candidates are required to pay the.
So you
that
might as
rate.
well use every word you can.
Yes.
So.
Irrespective of whether they use 250 or like
Or
less than
400.
250.
If the council adopts anything greater than 250, regardless of if they hit 400 or 200, they're still being charged the double rate. Because what the county does is they reserve space in the candidate guide for the printing of 400 words.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So it's either 2 per page or it's 1 per page.
Correct. And if the city's adopting a different limit, they're setting aside that space within the candidate guide. So
Let me make a recommendation here because, I mean, Scott and I can always come back with what we suggest and when we suggest. But Mark, Sabina, what are your opinions on this? And then I'll ask Sridhar.
Yeah, I think 250 is fine, honestly. And if anybody wants to do more than that, then they end up paying more, right?
No.
Because it's the county is now charging them on top of
No,
that 250.
Wait a minute, let her do it. Go ahead.
So the county establishes a 250 rate,
Got
but
it.
the governing body can adopt a different rate from that
Okay.
250 word count. So whether you adopt above 250,
Okay.
the candidates can type a 300 word statement, but they're still going to be paying for a 400 word count, regardless of if they hit the 400 or not.
Okay.
So if the city's adopting something different, they're automatically going to be charged the double the rate because the city's is adopting different than what the county is established at the 250
got it.
words.
I mean, I think if you can tweet, you can do a 250
I-
word statement.
Well, that's 180 characters.
Right.
Scott, you're up. Then Mark,
That's what I
that's
meant.
gonna
The reason
chime in.
So the reason I said 400 was largely because this is the one document that goes to every voter. If you have a fairly modest campaign, but you buy this one opportunity, then it goes to every single voter. It's your chance to reach every voter, regardless of whether they vote 5 times out of the last 5 elections, once, or they just registered to vote before the documents were mailed out. So I felt that the 400 gave both challengers as well as incumbents the best opportunity to get their statement in front of the voters. That's my thought.
Mark, any opinions on it? Because we're gonna have to.
Well, I guess the concern I had was, I'm sitting from an incumbent perspective, but so I've got some name recognition out there. But if I was a candidate who hadn't thrown their name in a hat previously, I would think a new candidate would want to use every bit of space possible to advertise what they're all about in that voter guide. My concern with that, what I'm saying is 400 makes sense to me in that regard. But then the concern is you got to pay double. And so you're basically causing everyone to pay double, not just those who want to exceed the 250. So I'm a little bit torn on this. I don't have strong opinions one way or the other. I just want to make sure that it's a fair field for both those who are incumbents as well as new candidates who don't have that same name recognition.
For a district, it's about $800. Okay, that's the cost of the 400 word is $800. And you can't get a mailer out there, having done it many times myself, you can't get a mailer out there for anything close to that for even a fraction of your district voters. So this is the highest yield, if you will, of getting your statement in front of the voters.
I would say this is pretty much what you just discussed is what we discussed. This is what policy, this is the dilemma. Do you do this or don't you do it? And to me, there was no wrong answer.
You're right. You are right, David. There is no wrong
And
answer.
it's just a matter of, okay, then look at it a different way. What do you want to do? I mean,
I think we would be putting a burden on anybody wanting to run by doubling the limit and by deciding to do that, right? So it's almost, yeah, on the cost, right? If some people just don't want to put a statement either, right? They just go without it. But most of the time, 250 words comprehensively describe what you want to say as well. And I think by deciding as a council, the five of us almost have an advantage of putting that extra burden on somebody and saying, no, you actually get to, even if you can do it in 250 words, you get to pay for twice as much. So they can spend that money somewhere else. That's their choice, but this is something that they get as an option and a decision we've made for them.
just going right down the line, Mark, you want to be the last vote on this, the first or second? We got one for 250? Do you 250 or 400? That's what I'm going to put it on. So we kind of basic. And I'm guessing.
Honestly, I'd
400 already.
I'd probably push towards 400.
Okay.
Not that I think everybody needs 400. I think 250 is probably adequate to say what you got to say, but in all fairness, I think 400 is a more fair way to go.
It's going to be a lot of pressure, Sridhar.
Sam, I'm just thinking like if we go with increase, then the newcomers may get discouraged because of the number of the payment that is double, right? So that can make them to think to run whether they should run or not, right?
Curious thing, if you look at our next agenda item, which is the campaign expenditures, you'll see what the candidates actually spent and how much money they had available. And you will see that in the mayor's election, nobody had less than 15,000. And in the council elections, in the 2020 council elections, with two exceptions in District 3, the candidates generally had over $3,000, and in my race, over $30,000. But the money is there if the candidates make an effort to collect the money. And like I said, this is the most cost-effective money you spend in a race. There is nothing else you do.
Yeah, but that's
definitely
a
agree with
discretion,
that.
right? Does somebody chooses to spend 80
It's your discretion to
grand?
buy signs. It's your discretion to buy little leaflets and go door to door. Everything's in your discretion. We actually had a candidate ran, David, you ran it for council, and one of the candidates only did signs.
Yeah.
And one of the candidates only did a candidate statement. Now, neither of them won because they didn't run a full-fledged campaign. But for anybody that wants to run an honest to goodness campaign, you need to do signs, you need to do flyers, you need to do the candidate statement, and you probably need to do some mailers. But anything less.
I think this is a barrier to entry, right? This is initially the filing. Then on top of that, they can do signs, whatever they want. They could do nothing.
Yeah. It's not a barrier because if they don't choose to put their statement, they don't have to pay.
Okay, I'm going to calm it down now. I'm hearing One for 400. I kind of heard one for 400 right here. Sridhar, where are you at?
I'm thinking 250 words.
Darn you guys. So I'm hearing 250 from Sridhar, 250 from Sabina, and 250 from Mark.
I was pushed more towards the 400.
Oh,
He's on the
come
fence.
You know, I want 250. I'll vote 400.
Okay,
All right.
So-
I just.
I'll make a motion.
Wait a minute, before you do, is there one less, just to keep it simple, we just do it to the county, the 250? I thought it was crazy we went to 400 last time, but the problem is when you're sitting here as the incumbent, and you're trying to do that kind of credits, just, you know, you have that feeling that you're just not being fair.
I honestly think it actually works to the advantage
Well,
of
that's why you
challengers,
sold me on it. That's why I backed off of it.
because this is the opportunity for a challenger with limited funds to get their name in front of everybody.
All right, let's do it.
I'll move the resolution with the
You got to do the
change
thing.
of the resolution 2022-097 with the change for a 400 word count. In the whereas and in the whatever. So we'll change it
Have
to
a motion, Perkins?
Okay.
You're not going to
Come
get
on,
it
Mark.
without it, Mark.
Come on, Mark. There you go.
Second Armstrong. Go ahead.
My first vote.
So what have we got here? I can't see anything. Did we do, we did 5 votes? Okay, 3-2.
All right.
And it's the changes to 4. I got to learn how to talk you into that stuff. Okay, 10.2 is, I know it. Where am I? 10.2 is where we get into the campaign expenditures.
Expenditure limit.
All right, this is 2022-98. Establishing a voluntary campaign expenditure limitation for the 2022 municipal election. Christina, you have the staff on that?
I do. So this next municipal election on November 8th will be for the mayor and 2 council members for districts 2 and 4. The courts have held that the amount spent by a candidate on their campaign election cannot be limited. However, the city does address this in its municipal code. The council could consider a voluntary campaign expenditure limit based upon the number of registered voters while taking into consideration the price of postage, number of mailings, and the cost of campaign signs. Consistent with past elections, the city has established a voluntary campaign spending limit and offered candidates the opportunity to voluntarily agree to that limit. I did provide the breakdown of the different costs for all 3 positions with the updated registered voter numbers as of May 19th. And in 2020, the mayor was approximately $1.25 per registered voter, and districts 1 and 3 were $2.25 per registered voter. The policy committee did review this information at their meeting on May 25th and recommended the expenditure limit for the mayor to be $1.25 per registered voter, which would set the expenditure limit at $61,966. And an expenditure limit for the council members for $2.25 per registered voter, which would set the limit for $30,089 for District 2 and $24,748 for District 4. In addition, the policy committee did recommend consideration by the city council and wanted feedback from the entire city council regarding the candidates that agree to the voluntary expenditure limit to have their candidate statements published on the city's website. And then for those that did not agree, they would not have their candidate statements published on the city's website. However, staff does recommend that we publish all candidate statements to be posted, but to also publish on the city's website whether they did or did not agree to the voluntary expenditure limit. So tonight, staff is requesting that the council establish a voluntary expenditure limit for 2022 that would be reasonable and fair to all candidates.
Okay, question of staff?
Yeah, there was one other recommendation, and that was that the counter, if you will, for expenditures started with January 1 of the election year
And I would have to defer to the city attorney because the FPPC regulates expenditure limits for elections. And I would have to defer to him regarding, can the city impose a start date for election spending?
Well, for this voluntary, as it applies to the voluntary, not,
So you're saying if they raise the year before, that doesn't count?
no. If you spend it the year before. This is an expenditure limit, not a campaign contribution limit.
And you have.
This is expenditures. My recommendation was that when I ran last time, I asked Christina, okay, when do we start counting expenditures? Do we start January 1? Do we start July 1? Do we start on the day that we filed? What is the start date of the expenditure count?
For limits, yeah.
Yeah, for complying with the campaign expenditure limitation. Now, the number you posted on here, much of it was spent before June 30th. We didn't have a time window for when the expenditure limit applies. It was ambiguous. And so if one interpreted the expenditure window as 1 July through the end of the calendar year, you get a different number than if you use 1 January. And so there you go. That's my, quite honestly, some of this is a complete farce anyway, but.
Okay, so for the purposes of this particular item, which is a voluntary spending limit, if we are setting a voluntary spending limit, then the start dates and end dates are also can be done by agreement and can be made a part of this.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. And I think it should be part of the motion or the resolution that the voluntary campaign expenditure compliance starts 1 January of the election year and goes through 31 December of the election year.
So Scott, why not when the committee is established, right? So,
well,
right, and then you have
I had a committee established, in prior years.
But
So-
now
but you have to
they changed
update
it, right? Now you have to do it like.
yeah, you
the
have
year.
to do it for every election
And
year,
so
right? You have
Dean,
to
if I
establish a committee.
Established my committee in November of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then that would start the clock.
I think, so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it should be. It should be with when the committee is established, which for every election, you need to
Yeah.
establish a committee.
Because you're talking about expenditures and
Right.
if someone starts emailing out or you're spending some money on a consultant or something like that, that's what you were really going for is money.
Okay.
And you
I'm
keep
using
reporting.
things that weren't. but,
Yeah, and you're starting to report to
Yeah.
FPPC. So you were getting all of that.
That's absolutely fine. But I think we should define the start date and the end date as it applies to the voluntary campaign expenditure limit. Because right in the prior year, there was no definition. And so it was ambiguous. And so I would claim I complied. But if you look at those numbers, you'd say I didn't. Because there was no definition.
So I think we can add the committee
Well,
formation. date,
yeah,
like,
committees
as-
formed when
Committee
it's
formed
established.
through the end of
FPPC.
that calendar year,
Election
the
year.
election
That
year.
election year, yeah, when you do that final reporting for that committee, which is 31st December and
You have to, it's
The last report.
31st December is the closing date. The filing date
Yeah.
is 31 January. And to be quite honest, that's part of the fallacy too, is if you pile all your expenditures after the election date, the election's over.
Yeah.
And you put an extra 10,000 into your expenditures after the election day, but before the end of the calendar year. So that's why, in many ways, this whole exercise is kind of a farce.
Well, it is, except we are trying to do a voluntary campaign expenditure limitation.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do something, the whole thing, the discussion we got into before on the 250, 400 was about trying to be fair to everyone. And it's information and it'll be there. So I'm hearing that the
numbers are fine.
dates, but we haven't discussed, and I hope I'm on the right one, what the number would be for the mayor and what the number would be for the district.
I like the numbers the
Okay.
way they are. I mean, that's what you and I discussed.
Okay, but I don't know if anybody had heard that. I did. Was it $1.25 for the mayor and
Two and a quarter,
$2.25?
yeah, and 2.25 for the districts.
Okay. Anything else that we needed to put down? There's.
Well, are these, if they're based on the 22-20 election with inflation and supply chain issues?
You want to increase them?
Because
Make a
I'm thinking,
recommendation.
part of that is going to play, right? Whatever was like $4 is going to be $8 now. And the interest.
With
Well,
CPI.
With CPI.
signs- Yeah, signs and mailers and printing and all those things are going to be more expensive. So if you think that they need to be higher, then make a recommendation.
It's like inflation 8%,
Yeah.
right? So put 8%, 1.25, 8%.
Well, you got 2 years of inflation, so it's more like 10%. So
Yeah, so 1.25 instead of that 1.
We've been doing, the history on it was pretty low on that thing. I'm just not, because I'm not going to get in the middle of the debate. I'll do whatever we need to do, but the $1.25, you're talking about a voluntary expenditure limit of $62,000 at $1.25. So I mean, your pleasure on just the mayor at first is up, down, go higher.
I would say at least account
So
for
with-
inflation.
With
Okay,
the
which is
inflation and all
10%,
that,
which is
maybe
another
mayor
12 cents.
1.50,
so 1.
50 for mayor
Well,
and.
that's more than 10%.
Then you still got to
I mean,
spend it.
it's like, you want to put exact 10%?
Yeah, what's
But a
what's
buck- a buck
10%?
35.
Okay, 1.40 is good, right?
Okay.
$1.40.
$1.40.
$1.40 for the mayor.
I'm going to keep
And,
us in here because there's a closed session coming. $1.40 for mayor, right?
$1.40 for mayor and
1.40.
And
And district-
235 for districts.
235 is good.
235 for districts.
all right.
I frankly thought, the numbers were okay. The $1.25 was okay for mayor. And frankly, I thought it was a little high on, just look at District 2, for example.
Yeah.
2.25 comes out to $30,000.89. That's a pretty significant chunk of change.
It is.
And that's what they spent?
Huh?
That's what we went to.
That's what
That's what
District
was
1
spent.
spent.
Well, that was spent in District 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was not even close. I mean, it's apples and oranges when you look at District 3.
District 3, yeah.
Yes.
How much was the?
I'm like, I'm surprised I spent like 1,980.
So, I mean, the number 2.25 is based on the high end election district, District 1 in the previous election.
All right, I'm going to try. We've got 140 for mayor.
And
Now
how about
for
240 for
240
for
Is
council?
that okay with you?
240.
It's a voluntary expenditure limit. You can spend less.
Or more.
It doesn't
more.
work.
Or more.
You get people to spend more.
It-
Nobody
These
will.
guys.
More
are-
is
Go back to
spent.
sleep. Go back to sleep. All right.
Somebody is going to ask you why you said that. Doesn't matter.
140 and 240?
No, okay, wait a minute, Mark. We are going to listen to you. What do you think it should be?
I was okay with the 2.25.
Okay, there's 2
recommendation,
votes
which I
for
thought was
2.25.
On the high end.
Okay, let's go with 2/4 then.
3 votes for 2.25.
I'm saying if we're, considering inflation for the mayor's election, we should consider inflation for the council election too. I mean, be fair across.
She's got you. Do you want to go up to 240?
Is it 240 or 235? Did you say?
235?
No, 235.
I'm going to get this thing done. I can tell you that. right.
I'm not passionate on this. issue one way or the
235?
35.
235.
Okay, 140 and 235.
Going once?
That's it. No, somebody make a motion.
I'll move we adopt resolution 2022-098
You're going to have to be a
with
lot
the,
quicker.
oh, there you go.
Zafar
Yeah.
first, Faroz second.
But you have to include the statements to change the amounts.
We agreed.
Okay. You got the right numbers, Christina?
Just to clarify, for mayor, it's $1.40.
Yes.
And for districts 2 and 4, it's $2.35
Correct. Okay.
per registered voter.
All right.
45. Okay, I'm looking up here. I don't see.
And
a
did
whole
you
lot.
want to include that?
Oh, and you have to include the
Expenditure.
the start date is the formation of that committee. And the end date is the calendar year of the election.
Okay, now I'm lost. Did I even open the public comment?
No. Well,
Okay, I don't care. Let's open it. Open the public comment. Do we have any cards?
I don't have any cards and there's no hands
I
raised.
figured as much. All right, they weren't there for one, they won't be there for two. Let's do three. 10.3 is resolution number 2022-99, requesting and consenting to consolidation of elections and setting specifications of the election order for the November 8th. It is on November 8th, right? Municipal election. Okay, Christina, make us sound intelligent.
The following staff report. Let me just choose this really quickly. The following staff report and resolution is requesting and consenting to consolidation of the elections and setting specifications of the election order for the November 8th municipal election. The city council may by resolution request the county elections official to render specified services to the city relating to the conduct of an election. And the resolution shall specify the services requested, including the request and consent to consolidate and set the specifications of the election order. The resolution that was attached to the staff report authorizes Contra Costa County Elections Division to administer the November 8th, 2022 municipal election. And the city agrees to compensate the county for expenses incurred in this election. Additionally, the resolution provides a policy regarding candidate statements, which will be updated with the new word count, requests election consolidation, and specifies the available offices. In order to authorize the Contra Costa County Elections Division to administer the election, the council must adopt the resolution and direct the city clerk to submit a certified copy of the resolution to the Registrar of Voters and the County Board of Supervisors.
Any questions of staff? Seeing none, public comment is open. Is there any cards?
I have not received any cards and I don't see any hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, and there's no written?
There's no written on this.
Close the
item.
public comment. Council discussion.
I'll move.
Motion
Sabina.
support, second Perkins. That was a heck of a discussion. Okay.
Well, this one, there's really, unless you want to run your own election,
I know.
Christina, this is really the only option. You either run your own election or you consolidate with the county.
Okay, we got 5 yeses out of 5. City manager comments. Bring some levity.
All right, wake up over there.
Okay, well, the good news is our recreation programs, our kids' recreation programs are at 91% capacity, which is better than the pandemic. So we're kind of excited about that, the launching that. And you've probably seen on social media and different public engagements, we're starting the Crow Canyon road widening project. And that's going to be occurring here shortly next, when is it? Right now. Actually, we're starting right now.
You got the signs up and detours and everything going.
So
Are we gonna do at least one Nixle blast or something?
we don't normally use Nixle for that.
That, because you know, people are gonna go down and then start complaining and be on next door and say what's going on.
Yeah, generally, we use Nixle for emergency traffic only. I know other jurisdictions do it, but the whole,
Because Danville sends out something when.
the whole
like that
design of
happens.
Nixle is not necessarily
They change
general
a stop
information.
sign in Danville, they send out one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it for me.
Okay. Any public comment or cards or anybody wanting to speak about the city manager's comment?
I don't have any cards
Good.
and I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, public comment is open. Second public.
Mayor, before you, we do have, I apologize, they put their hand down.
Okay, public comment is open. Second time, somebody wishing to speak to us. The hand went down.
For those in the audience that would like to speak under public comment, please use the raise your hand button.
Yeah, or *9.
No, they put their hand down.
Okay, close public comment. Who wants to start off for us? Sabina?
So we have to decide the name of the bocce ball team.
Could we open this for public comment?
We'll open it for public comment and take
I
votes
think
there.
it's the Z-Men. All right, go ahead.
I don't know, where's Stephen? Would you like to make a public?
No, no,
comment?
no, 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 no. I don't want to know. No. Report out.
I don't know, there's a lot happening, right? The concerts are coming back, the 4th of July. Yeah, I can't believe we're in the middle of June. So we are, come to the Arts Foundation booth. We'll have wine, beer, and non-alcoholic drinks, and we'll be raising money for the arts. We'll have the 4th of July concert. We'll have, what else are we? We have the run, San Ramon, happening as well. So lots happening in San Ramon over the summer. I'm looking forward to that.
Good. Go ahead.
I
We're gonna go
want
that
to
way.
thank
Your last.
staff,
Next to last.
particularly Becky, for the really nice Memorial Day event over at Memorial Park. That was really well put together. I guess we had about 50 or so, 40, 50 people there. And I thought that was a really nice event. I want to thank the Parks and Community Services staff and Becky in particular. MCE board met, and life is good in the world of MCE and power. I did bring up the subject of, the summer and the fact that as we electrify more houses, we pull gas. You can't, in some communities, you can't put in a gas furnace, you can't put in a gas water heater, you can't put in a gas stove. So everything's electric. And then as we transition more and more and more to electric cars, we don't have a power a generation and distribution system to meet that need right now. We need substantial increases in both power generation and power distribution in order to meet some of those goals. So while it sounds really good when you say it fast, let's go to electric cars and let's go to electric houses. Those brownouts we've had in the past, particularly during a drought year when the hydroelectric is really down, will be problematic. You will see brownouts, and then you won't have your hot water heater and you won't have your gas stove or your electric stove. So I don't know if the system and the infrastructure is ready. We need to continue to push on that. And I know MCE is looking at that as to how they can make those contributions, but we aren't ready for that. Also went to Library Foundation, and Library Foundation is doing quite well. So
good. Thank you. Mark.
Past their budget. Yep.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to attend the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee again, and it was fairly routine to me, program updates and upcoming events and that sort of thing. This week I attended the Open Space Advisory Committee meeting. It was a lot of discussion. It went for quite a long time. There was some discussion on the potential for in the future combining the Open Space Preservation Protection Plan, which has been under development for quite a significant time, with a trails kind of a master plan, and kind of breaking that out separately. Anyway, that generated a lot of discussion. I also want to give a shout out to Robin Bartlett, who gave a presentation on all of our GADs, the Geologic Hazard Abatement Districts, not just the Doherty Valley GAD, but all of them, all four of them. We typically talk about, Northwest San Ramon and Doherty Valley GAD, but he also included the Canyon Lakes and the
West Branch.
The what?
West Branch.
And West.
Isn't it West Branch, Dave? Isn't it the other one?
I don't know, it's Silva.
Yeah.
Or Silva, the
Or
Silva
Blackhawk?
property?
And, I'll think of it here in a second, but anyway, he gave a great presentation. Those are really under the auspices of, those other two are under the auspices of Contra Costa County still. And so we are primarily looking at the two that we typically look at, Northwest and Doherty Valley. But a great presentation by Robin. The other thing I want to do, I want to give a quick shout out to to not just city manager, but Public Works on getting completion on what to me is a significant public safety improvement, and that is the completion of the safety improvement enhancements at Iron Horse Trail Crossing and Montevideo and Pine Valley. And if you haven't seen them, and I've been over to check them out and test them and everything else, but there's motion sensors that activate a little stoplight for the pedestrians and for the walkers, scooters, whatever. It also activates the rectangular flashing beacons for the cars to slow down and take caution. I'm hoping this will really improve a lot of the safety at those intersections. I think it's a great enhancement, and I really want to thank Public Works and all those that had their hand in it for staying on this, taking a look at it. There were it was started some time ago. There were some supply chain issues, and I know it finally got completed, and I'm very pleased with that. So thank you. That's all.
Vice Mayor Burrows.
Attended a couple of events, community events. I go with Council Member Perkins on Memorial Program. Thank you. Thanks for hosting such a fantastic program. And the other one is Pride Gathering, which we did. This is the first time we did in our Central Park Meadows. Once again, thanks our Parks and Community Services Department for stepping up and helping with this lot of ad hoc requests that came up. But then thank you very much for making it happen. Those two, and the third, the important one, this Sunday we are going to play our finals, cricket final, San Ramon Tigers. We somehow came to finals, and if you are interested, join us on Sunday at 1 p.m. our game starts, and most probably by 4 o'clock we should be done with that. So
okay, thank you.
That's pretty much.
Yeah, and also thank you for being at the Memorial Park while I was at Central Park. That's one of those things that where experience doesn't help when you keep going to the same place year after year and find out get moved. Attended a hydrogen conference last week in Sacramento, and I'm really impressed with how fast it's coming. I think you're going to see more and more hydrogen involved with the vehicles. And in fact, the projection is quite passionately projected that by 2030, you may see some equivalency between electric and the hydrogen vehicles. There's an ALMA conference coming up June 28th and 30th. If somebody's interested, I hear all these people talking about climate change. Here we have the international group that does the stuff about climate change. It's right here in San Francisco. September, we got the League of California Cities coming up. I hope everybody's got their reservations, et cetera, in, because it's going fast. October, I've got an APTA conference in Seattle. It's not as big as the one that's in Orlando that was last year, but a lot of changes in the transit business. I think you're going to see more of a focus on hydrogen instead of the electric bus. And in November, there's Shaping Our Future, which has always been pretty important. We start hearing from the people in transportation at the state level. I want to do a special shout out and drop back to that hydrogen conference. Before I was at the hydrogen conference, I was with Scott at his Eagle Court. Thought that was done outstanding. I really thought this group has it together. They can do 4 Eagles well. 10, I would stay away from again. That was the longest. I did 10 reels. I mean, you just can't do it. 4 is about the max, but I think you did an outstanding, Scott. And I think they all agreed, because I think every one of these young men gave him a pin. Saturday, did that TEDx speak that you did a couple of years before. Really loved all these high school kids put this thing on. It's fantastic. And they kind of worked it out how it was going to work the night before. And then you come in there and speak and go. And I mean, it's a great presentation. And I think the opportunity to give these kids that opportunity to be able to do this is going to pay off dividends for a lot of these young people down the road. Had an Eagle Court also the next day. There's going to be a lot of Eagle Courts at this time of year. In fact, if anybody, I'm really concerned on the 25th. I think I have one at 3 o'clock, but got something going in the morning that might drag out. But as Sabina said, this is really, really a busy time of the year. And I'm glad that everybody's staying on top of it. I hear the same thing. It's, just a great livable community. Not that I'm bragging, because we're one of the only two cities that were there and the other one wasn't named Anvil. But this is just a great, small, livable city to live in. And I'm really proud that we were recognized for it. So congratulations, staff. Great job. And it's good to see that people are out there paying attention. Okay, we are 14.1, convene a closed session pursuant to Government Code 54957.6 for City Council to meet with city negotiators Joe Gordon, Martin License, Kelly Sessions, and Steven Spadowski. This is concerning labor negotiations with the Service Employee International Union Local 1021. We will be back when we're back. Council direction to the city negotiator and has nothing to report at this time. We will stand adjourned to our next regular. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had a comment. We are adjourned to our next regularly scheduled council meeting, which will be held on June 28th. Good evening.